Alright. Hi, hi. Alright, gonna finish up the real sky end. And then see if I can do the one I meant to do.
乗りかかった船だ。それに今は可能性があるなら何でもやっておきたい。
理由は？
そんなもん今さらどうとでもなるさ。潰れる面目は全部潰しちまったしな。ただしもしそれによって何か疑わしいことが出てきたら止められるという保証はないぞ。それでもいいんだな。
I could tell from the way he spoke that he wasn't joking.
はい。
There's no turning back now. I said it aloud so that I could hear it too.
ただいま。
おかえり。
Kurusu welcomed me with a smile when I opened the door.
タクル兄ちゃん、おかえり。おかえりなさい。
Yuto was sitting at his desk doing schoolwork. Yamazawa seemed to be studying too. Both of them looked up at the same time. I'd lived with other people at Aoba dorm, but we'd all had our own rooms. It felt a little weird to hear "welcome home" as soon as I walked through the door. But it wasn't a bad feeling at all.
頼まれてたのこれでいいんだよな。
ありがとう。
I handed Kurusu the ingredients for dinner that she'd asked me to pick up before I left.
何？
なんでもない。
Kurusu didn't ask where I'd been going when I left, but I was sure she could guess. She probably wanted to know how it had gone, but she wasn't asking for my sake.
それでよかったんだよな。
え？
頼まれてた買い物。
こんにゃくとお豆腐と。あれ？ねえタクル、これは？
ユウトたちだってたまにはお菓子くらい食べたいだろ。
お菓子？
Yuta stood up when he heard the word snacks. His face broke into a huge grin when he saw the value-sized pack of Yat Cats in Kurusu's hands.
やった、チョコレートだ。ありがとうタクル兄ちゃん。ほらウキ姉ちゃん、チョコだよ、チョコ好き？
By the way, I heard that supposedly chocolate's going to be expensive soon.
うん。
Whether or not
ね
that's
え
true,
のの
who
姉ちゃん、
knows?
チョコ食べてもいい？お勉強が終わったらね。やったー！早く勉強終わらそう、ウキ姉ちゃん。
The two of them sat down at the desk and began to study even harder than before.
もうダメよタクル。この先私たちの生活もどうなるかわからないんだから無駄遣いしちゃう。
わかってるけど、たかがチョコレートだろ。
たかがの積み重ねがそのうち大きく。
Kurusu stopped and shook her head.
そうね。タクルの言う通りかもしれないわね。
Something about like a
何
cocoa
事もダメ
shortage.
ダメじゃ
I
ん
don't。know.
息が詰まっちゃう。
Might be nothing more than like, you know, clickbait. I don't know.
こういう時だものね。
I don't care enough to.
少しくらい心の余裕がないと。
クルス？
何？
いや、なんでもない。
It seemed like she'd changed since she'd come here. I was gonna say that, but I stopped.
変なの。
When she smiled, it was a little more peaceful than the smile I was used to seeing. Maybe I thought I'd known everything about Kurusu, but I hadn't known anything at all. I got the call from Shinjo that night.
信じたくはないだろうが、まず間違いない。
そうですか。わかりました。
After I heard what Shinjo had to say, I staggered back to the apartment. When I arrived, Kurusu had just gotten out of the bath and was drying her hair with a towel.
タクル？どこ行ってたの？お風呂から上がったらいなくなってるからちょっと心配し。 タクル？
尾上が
I couldn't say the rest of it. Yuto and Yamazoe were asleep, but I didn't want to talk about it in front of them.
タクル？
Kurusu stood up, slowly walked over, and held me tight. She slipped her hands around my back and patted me gently, like a top child. It felt like she'd been doing this all the time lately. But for now, I just wanted to let her do it.
クルス尾上が尾上は
大丈夫よ。今は何も言わなくても。落ち着いてからでいいから。
クルス
Shinjo had seemed reluctant when I talked to him, but he'd acted fast after I left. The police must have been getting desperate. This is the real Sky End. It's Nono's route. They wanted to make up for the mistake they'd made with Ito as fast as possible. Shinjo had persuaded his superiors and gone to search Setika's home. What he'd found there was absolute darkness, both concerning her and everything about her. That's what he said. There were signs that Serika Ito? Do you mean Serika Onoe? Had lived there. But there were no signs of her parents. There was, however, a body. It was the body of the person who had originally lived there. Serika had killed the home's original owner, hid the body, and taken their place. That's what he'd said. I wanted to tell him he must be joking. I wanted to scream that he was lying. I was the one who'd asked him to do it, and to some degree I'd expected this. But hearing the truth felt like someone was cutting out my heart with a knife.
私じゃダメ？私じゃダメ？私がセリカの代わ
I
りに
hate
ずっとあ
Nono.
な
Oh
た
my
のそ
god,
ばにい
she's
てあ
so
げる。
annoying.
それじゃあダメ？それとも私じゃセリカの代わりにはなれない？
I realized clearly. My home was here. This is where my heart belonged. Here, with Yuto and Yamazoe and...
ありがとうノノ
I do not like her at all. Oh my god. When I finally said her name, she just nodded without saying a word.
炊飯器でケーキが焼けるなんて知りませんでした。実は炊飯器ってご飯が炊けるだけじゃなくていろんなことに使えるのよ。
First of all, she's still lying to him. She's totally Senri. And she still hasn't said it to him. She's just like, yeah, my ability is totally, same as Arimura. Yeah, except, you know, not as strong. Yep. Like, she's still lying, and she's like, oh, but our house rule is no secrets. Yeah, whatever, bitch. And then now he's like, oh, I just found out my childhood friend, who was like my best friend, who I've been since I was a little kid. I just found out she's a psychopath killer. And she's like, am I not good enough? I can't take her place for you? No, that's got nothing to do with it. You psycho.
のの姉ちゃんそういうの好きだもんね。ほら、チョコレートのいい匂いがしてきたわよ。
I'd only eaten a few hours ago, but the delicious smell was making me hungry again. Nono was in the kitchen making a cake with Yuto and Yamazoe. I was leaning up against the wall and half-heartedly watching them. My head was still filled with thoughts of Serika. Shinjo had asked me to meet with him this morning. He'd had all kinds of questions. How did I find out that Serika Onoe was involved in the case? Where was she now? Who was she, anyway? Shinjo said that her family registration itself was fake. And he told me more. There was no sign that she'd ever existed until the time of the Shibuya earthquake 6 years ago. That was impossible. I remembered spending time with her. I could clearly remember going to AH General Hospital to look for Amy with her and finding Seni Minamizawa in the middle of an experiment. And I knew for a fact that Seni Minamizawa had been down in that facility before the earthquake. If she didn't exist, then what were my memories? But nothing I gave the police ended up being any real help. And there still wasn't a warrant out for Setika's arrest. It made sense, given what had happened with Ito. They probably decided they couldn't risk treating another minor as the killer and getting it wrong again. There was also the question of where Setika came from. If she had no family registration, then she practically didn't exist. And you couldn't prosecute someone who didn't exist. And on top of all that, there was the fact that the rest of the world still didn't know about the Gigalomaniacs. They were probably being as careful as possible. I said her name in my mind. She had been with me forever. She'd always taken my side. And she'd done all those terrible things for me. But then, just who was she?
はい、準備 OK。これであとは出来上がるのを待つだけで。そうよ、簡単でしょ。ねえねえ、どのくらいで出来上がるの？そうね、1時間くらいかしら。1時間か。そうだ、ただ待ってるのも退屈だし、せっかくだからどこか行こうか。いいの？ええ、みんな一緒ならいいんじゃないかしら。ねえ、タクル。
I wasn't listening.
みんなでどこかに行こうかって言ってたの。
どこかって？
その辺をブラブラよ。ねえ、タクルも行くでしょ？
僕は。
タクル兄ちゃんも行こうよ。いいでしょ？
There wasn't much point in sitting here and being gloomy.
わかった。一緒に行くよ。
やったー！ウキ姉ちゃん、準備しよう。
Ito was really excited. I'd been keeping him inside lately out of fear that Setika might come. He was probably eager to get out of the house. Maybe it would be a good change of pace.
お待たせ。
Nona, Yuta, and Uki came back holding cones piled high with ice cream. The color of the ice cream was so bright it stung my eyes.
はい、これタクルの分。
She offered me one that was glistening with a thick coating of chocolate.
ありがとう。
I took the cone from Nono's hands.
チョコとバニラでよかったよね。
うん。
Nono knew exactly what I liked.
おいしい。そうでしょ。甘くておいしいね。
っていうか、ケーキも焼いてるのに甘いものばっかでいいのか？
甘いものは別腹って言うでしょ。
Hadn't she gotten mad when I'd bought those yak cats? But, well, if it made everybody happy, and Nono too.
おいしい。おいしくて身も心もとろけちゃいそう。
Nono devoured the ice cream and went right for the cone. She looked like she was in a state of ecstasy.
おいしかった。
なんだよ、もう食べちゃったのか？
うん。でも。
She looked longingly at mine.
何？
こんなのじゃ足りない。もっと 欲しいな。
Nona peered into my eyes, her cheeks flushed red. She was fidgeting and rubbing her thighs together. It was kind of a turn on. My heart skipped a beat. I stopped licking the cone and gulped down my saliva.
ねえ、タクルの舐めちゃダメ？
僕のって新しいの買ってくればいいだろ
違うの。私が舐めたいのはそっち。
Nona looked at it and poked her tongue out. The pink flesh poked longingly through her pretty lips.
すっごくおいしそう。ねえ、それペロペロしてちゃダメ？
いいけどユウトたちが見てる。
いいわよ。私は見られたって平気。
But was that okay? But Nona was practically begging for it.
そこまで言うなら仕方ないな。
She gave me a seductive smile and brought her face close. Then she licked it with the tip of her tongue. I don't like that sound. Her tongue moved from the tip down across the rest of it.
タクルの味がする。
Her eyes were looking up at me from below.
ねえ、もっとちょうだい。
I saw her tongue flick seductively for a moment before her tiny mouth swallowed the whole thing. A smooth, clear liquid dribbled from her mouth. Her tongue flicked about and wrapped around the whole thing. What the fuck? Pleasure signals stimulated my brain one after another, and it was all I could do to stay standing. Decky night. Moody. Moody.
タクルももっとしてもいいよね。
クルス。
The walls of my reason collapsed. My head shook up and down.
じゃあ声に出して言って。タクルがの。
もっと舐めて。
聞こえないよ。
舐めてください。お願いします。
わかった。ちゃんと言ってくれたご褒美してあげるね。
Her crimson lips opened again as she slowly put it in her mouth.
タクルの指、おいしい。ねえ、のの姉ちゃん。
Yep,
Takuro
this is
兄ちゃん、
exactly
どうしちゃったの？
what I'm feeling right now. This is exactly what I'm feeling right now.
大丈夫。いつものことよ。
What was I thinking about doing this in the middle of the street? I don't know.
結局なんだかんだでお金使っちゃったな。
After we'd bought everything we needed, we'd run through quite a bit of cash.
これは明日から節約生活ね。
Mona sounded kind of happy. She'd been like that for as long as I'd known her. The worse a problem got, the more excited she was to solve it. That was one of the reasons everyone counted on her so much. It was a phone call, but my My phone was silent in my pocket, which meant
ごめん、私。
Nono took her phone out and looked at the screen, then put it back in her bag.
誰？
気になる？
違うよ。出なかっただろ。だから。
川原くんからよ。
川原くん？
うん。時々かかってくるの。いつから学校に来るんだって。
I bet you she's lying.
なんだよ。
別に。
Weirdo.
あ、そうだ。ねえ、そういえばさっきのお店で福引きの券もらったわよね。
ああ、そういや。
多分この辺でやってると思うんだけど。
Normally, I never paid attention to the things, even if I got them, but Nono always did. She was also always kind of like a housewife that way.
あれじゃないですか。
Yamazoe pointed to a small tent where a man was outside yelling.
ほら、タクルも行こう。
僕はいいよ。あんなの昔から当たったことなんてないし。尾上はよく当たってたけど。
I remembered Seneca again.
もうそんなこと言わないでね。ほら、一等は最新型ポケコンだって。
Nono had very clearly heard what I said, but she was talking like nothing was unusual at all. Me like trying to get exercise while I'm like on the computer. That made me feel a lot better.
お願いします。
お嬢さんたち兄弟かい？
わかります？
そりゃあそれだけ仲良さそうならわかるってもんだ。
ねえタクル、私たち家族に見えるって。でも嬉しいけどちょっと残念かな。
はい、じゃあ全部で4回ね。
あ、はい、4回だからちょうど1人1回ね。タクルもやるのよ。
わかったよ。
Sad? Why?
あ、それじゃあ最初は僕やってもいいかな。
ええ、どうぞ。
じゃあ行くね。残念です。僕2等の携帯ゲーム欲しかったのに。
ああいうのは当たらないようにできてるんだよ。そもそもちゃんと当たりが入っているのかどうかもわからないんだ。
そうなの？のの姉ちゃん。
そんなことないわよ。ただそんなに簡単には当たらないでしょうね。でも私はこれで十分。
Nona patted her 24 rolls of toilet paper and smiled. Yamazoe and Yuto laughed. Only then did I remember that at night, Yuto always used to cry or suddenly break out screaming. The trauma he'd experienced during the earthquake had given him scotophobia, the fear of darkness. But ever since we'd moved, that hadn't happened, even after he'd lost his sister and adoptive father. Of course, part of that was due to Yuto's own efforts, but it wasn't possible to get over a phobia just by working hard. A lot of it was probably thanks to Nono. Nono had become more of a mother than ever. She was looking out for everyone. That's why Yuto and Yamazoe were able to smile.
はい、タクル。炊飯器で焼いたケーキ食べるでしょ。
Sorry.
タクルはマウンテンビューがいいのよね。ユートはミルクで、ウキちゃんは紅茶。
あのさ、
When I said her name, she stopped what she was doing and turned around. And smiled.
まだそうやって呼んでくれるんだ。
当たり前だろ。ノノはノノなんだし。
The days passed peacefully. Why did I want to be special? I didn't need to be special. I didn't have to be special. Kurusu had always told me that, so why did I only notice now? How stupid had I been? Pretty damn stupid. Several more peaceful days passed. Shinjo would contact me once in a while, but all he ever asked was if Sodika had contacted me. That meant that the police hadn't found her either. I couldn't let my guard down, but nobody was capable of staying on edge 24 hours a day. And with everything that lay ahead of me, I couldn't live in fear of Sodika forever. I had some savings built up, but it wasn't enough for 4 people to subsist on forever. I checked the employment sites for a good part-time job. Customer service was out of the question. So was anything involving physical labor. I looked for something that dealt with information, but of course I couldn't find anything. Part of me thought about asking Kunosato if she needed help with Shibuya News, but from the look of her apartment, she probably didn't have enough money to hire me either. No, wait. If we put more ads or something on the Shibuya News page and tried to get some affiliate income... Suddenly there was a knock at the door.
Takuru.
Nono was in the center of the room, sewing something. She tensed up. Only a few people knew about this apartment. Or could it be Sodika? Probably Kunosato, right? I silently motioned for the others to gather in the corner of the room, and softly went to the door and reached out for the knob. But before I could open it, the door flung open from the outside. Oh, no, I didn't know.
開いてるじゃん。
は？
Peeking through the door were Arimura and...
Arimura さん、それにカズキも。
I kind of forgot that they existed.
チャオ
Sorry, guys.
スお久しぶり。
お前ら何しに来たんだよ。
Yep, I know how to breathe.
あらまたこらまた。全然学校に来ない上連絡すらくれない先輩方の様子を見に来た可愛い後輩2人に向かってずいぶんなご挨拶じゃないっすか。
いや、それには事情が。
なるほど。ふむふむ。ここが先輩方の愛の巣ってわけですか。
Arimura grinned wickedly as she stared at the room.
愛の巣って何言ってるの。私たちは家族みんなで。
ああ、とにかく上がっていいっすか。お邪魔します。
She came inside without waiting for an answer or even taking her shoes off. She never did listen to what anybody had to say.
というわけで遠慮なくくつろいでね、花。
有村は少しぐらい遠慮しろよ。
ああ、お構いなく。私安物のお茶でも気にしませんから。
This girl.
それにしてもこれはまた思った以上のボロさですね。世界遺産ものですよ。
At this point, I was wasting my time even trying to say anything.
ゆうともウキも元気そうで何よりね。
お久しぶりです。おかげさまで。
The two of them looked relieved to see the identities of our sudden visitors.
まったく二人とも相変わらずね。安心したわ。
Nona must have been happy to see them, because she had a big grin on her face.
学校の方はどう？
先輩たちが来ない以外は普段通りぼちぼちですよ。ね。
I didn't really care about school, but Nona was the student council president. It must have been bothering her.
っていうか、お前らどうやってここが分かったんだ？
あ、やっぱ気になりますそれ。
I've been trying to keep it a secret, so of course I did.
聞いたんですよ、新庄さんに。
It turned out to be a simple matter.
最初は知らないってとぼけてましたけど、私にそんな嘘ついても無駄だっていうのに、ほんと学習しないんだからあの刑事さん。
So he'd had no choice but to tell her then.
ってことは、人通りのことは。
いやー、やられましたよ。まさか私の能力を知っててのらりくらりとかわされてたとはね。敵ながらあっぱれです。
I knew instantly that she was talking about Sodika. Not saying the name was probably her way of trying to make me feel better. She was more delicate in things like that than you might expect, because she'd spent so much time worrying about what other people were thinking.
それにしても先輩も物好きっすね。よりによって隣が。
There was a pounding on the wall before she could finish her sentence.
ダメよ。見た目通り壁薄いんだから、全部聞こえちゃうわよ。
聞こえちゃうっていうか、聞いてるんじゃないですか。ほら、コップとか壁にくっつけて。
More pounding. Maybe Arimura was right.
こら、和樹も対抗心燃やして壁殴ろうとしないの。
Just having the two of them here made this place feel like the club room.
そうそう、それでですね、私たちが今日やってきた目的はですね。
Arimura suddenly stood up and left the room.
お？
ねえ、花も手伝ってよ。
Now it was Kazuki's turn to disappear. The two of them carried a large object into the room.
ちょっと、これって物質の。
It was the map we'd used to track the case.
なんでわざわざこれをここに？
花がどうしても持っていくって言うんだもん。
和樹が？
先輩たちが後ろでワイワイやっててくれないと円数やってても張り合いがないんだって。でも先輩たちは来ないでしょ。だったらこっちから出向くしかないってなわけで、これからはここが物質ということで一つ。
How selfish could you be? Maybe someone else might let her get away with that, but
一つって見てわかるでしょう。ここにいきなりそんな大きなものを持ってこられても困るわ。
see, the Empress wouldn't.
でももう持ってきちゃったんで、あとは捨てるなりなんなり好きにしてください。
Nono sighed and shrugged her shoulders. She must have realized she was wasting her time. Hinai Arimura could be a very scary woman to deal with.
それでは反対もないようなので、ここに碧峰学園新聞部出張所の発足式を行いたいと思います。
Arimura took out some Mountain Dew from the fridge and began to hand it to everyone. I didn't even feel up to complaining anymore.
皆さん準備はいいですか？
Kazuki applauded mechanically, a blank expression on her face.
それでは乾杯。
Kanpai!
乾杯です。
Kanpai!
乾杯。
Plastic bottles hitting each other didn't exactly make for a good toast.
どうしたの、有村さん。
宮代先輩とクルス先輩はここで毎晩しとねを共にしてるわけですよね。
しとねって変な言い方しないで。共同生活をしてるのよ。ほら、兄弟なんだから普通でしょ。それに優斗とウキちゃんも一緒だし。
Kazuki must have found Arimura's words funny because she was holding her stomach and laughing. I never did understand her sense of humor.
なるほど、4人で一つ屋根の下ですか。楽しそうですね。そうだ花、私たちも一緒にここで暮らそうか。
はあ？
What was she talking about?
あのな、僕たちは別に遊びでここに暮らしているわけじゃないぞ。
そうよ。それにこの部屋にこれ以上人が増えたらとてもじゃないけど暮らしていけないわ。
そうですか。寝るところなら何とでもなるし、みんなでお金を出し合えば家賃だって一人頭換算少なくて済みますよ。
For some reason, Kazuki was nodding rapidly in agreement.
そんなこと言ってもだな。
それにほら見てくださいよ、今のこの状態。
Anima stood in the middle of the room and spun around, her arms outstretched like a stage actress.
ね、
何がね、なんだ。
何がね。
もうニブチンさんなんだから。いいですか、今この部屋の中には男子が2人女子が4人、いわば宮代先輩のほぼハーレム状態。
へー。 practically means it isn't, though.
おい、
Hey.
お前たち
Now it's 5 girls. Kunosato burst through the door and screamed.
隣で騒ぐなと何度も言っているだろうが、いい加減に。
ああ、いいところに。ねえ、あなたも一緒にどうですか？
一緒に？
またまた話聞いてたんでしょ？みんなで一緒に暮らしませんかって話ですよ。
お前、頭に虫でも湧いているんじゃないか。どう？
生活費楽になりますけど。
She fell silent. Wait, was she seriously considering it?
冗談じゃない。どうして私がお前たちと共同生活を送らなければならないんだ。バカも休み休み言え。
See, she shot the idea right down.
とにかくこれ以上やかましく騒ぐんじゃない。次に騒いだら脳に電極ぶっ刺してやるからな。
Kunosato slammed the door shut loud enough to bother the other neighbors. It didn't seem like she was joking.
ほんと相変わらず冗談の通じない人。
お前たちが無駄に騒ぐからだろ。
失敬な。無駄なんかじゃないっすよ。私たちにはれっきとした重大な用が。ああ。実はね、今日来た理由はもう一つあって。
Animuna slapped her hands together as if she'd only just remembered.
伊藤先輩のお見舞い行きません？
We'd heard that Ito had been released, but I didn't know that he'd recovered enough to meet with people. He was still considered a person of interest in the case, so they were refusing most visitors. But Animuna said we could get Shinja to let us in. For his part, Shinja probably hoped that we could get some information from Ito. And if Animuna was there, we could tell if Ito was telling the truth. I wanted to know how Ito was doing, too. We decided to have Ito and Yamazoe stay with Momose while we were gone. She'd already taken care of Yamazoe before, so we knew it would be safe. Ito's room was on the top floor of the hospital. There were detectives stationed around the floor, but Shinja must have sent word because they let us straight through.
伊藤。
ああ
Ito looked up at us from the bed and grinned, just a little.
宮代、それにみんなも来てくれたのか。
まあな。で、どうだ調子。
調子か。体調は悪くないと思う。
I'd expected Ito to be barely conscious, but his color was good and he didn't seem to be in a lot of pain. But
思ったより元気そうでよかった。あ、これお見舞い。果物くらいは食べられるんでしょ？
ああ、悪いな。気を使ってもらっちまって。
it felt like the energy that had made Ito himself had vanished.
それで、その。
I started to talk and then fell silent. From what I'd heard, Ito had lost all of his memories of the incident. I wanted to see if that was true, but how to ask?
その、ゆいちゃんのことだろ。
覚えてるのか？
一応な。刑事さんにも聞かれてるしさ。
I couldn't tell if he was smiling or crying.
ごめんな。俺がちゃんと守ってやれれば、ゆいちゃんだって助かったかもしれないのにな。
え？
伊藤君、ゆいが助かったかもってどういうこと？
え？だって俺の目の前で殺されたんだろ。彼
What
女
was going on?
悪いな。本当に覚えてないんだよ。俺この数週間の間何があったのか、なんというのか、こうありがちな言い方だけど、もやがかかったみたいっていうかさ。だから正直 なんで自分がこんなところにいるのかもわからねえんだよ。
I looked at Animura. She nodded silently. That meant he was telling the truth. Suddenly, Ito looked around the room in surprise.
あれ、そういえば尾上はどうしたんだ？あ、なんか静かだと思ったらあいつがいないからか。何かあったのか？
いや、
ちょっとね、学校で居残りだって。
あいつらしいや。
伊藤先輩にもよろしく伝えて。
そうか。まあ顔見られないのは残念だけど、そのうち来るよう言っといてくれよ。病室ってのはどうにも退屈でさ。
If he didn't remember, there was no need to force him to.
伊藤君、
悪い。久しぶりにいろいろ思い出そうとしたらちょっと疲れたみたいだ。
そう。それじゃあ私たちそろそろおいとまするわ。
わざわざ来てくれたのに悪いな。
いや、いいんだ。気にするな。
Ito sank down into the bed and smiled at us weakly as we left the room. Unfortunately, it was true that he didn't remember anything. No. He hadn't just forgotten. He'd replaced the bad memories with ones that were better for him. But he was a victim too, in a way. It wasn't right to blame him and force him to confront the truth. I felt conflicted about it, though. Would Nono and I ever truly be able to be friends with him again? I wondered about that as I headed for home. Nothing happened for the next 2 days. Sedeko was still leaving us alone. It might be time for me to head back to school. But with Yuto and Yamazoe to worry about, maybe it was still too soon. And then she showed up again.
チャオス先輩方。あ、ウキッチもユートッチも。チャオスです。
Suit us. She'd won Yuto and Yamazoe over too.
それで、今日は何しに来たんだよ。
あらまあ、ずいぶんとご挨拶ですね。この前言ったじゃないすか。ここが碧峰学園新聞部出張所だって。
The corkboard was already situated behind us. I couldn't see it from here, but I would if I looked around. It made the whole place feel cramped.
部活はそれぞれの自主性に任せる。だからわざわざここに来る必要はない。そもそも有村、お前文芸部だろ。
いやー、文芸部で培った文章作成のスキルを新聞部でも役立てればと。それに今日は頼まれ物があってわざわざ来たんですから。感謝される言われはあれど、文句言われる筋合いはないはずです。えへん。
Arima puffed out her chest proudly.
頼まれ物？
残念ながら宮代先輩ではなくクルス先輩に。
私に？何かしら。
さあ、ただこれを渡してくれって川原先輩が。
川原くんが？
Just as Nono took a stack of handouts from Arimura, her phone began to ring. She looked at the screen and ignored it. I didn't intend to look, but from where I was sitting, I caught a glimpse of it. It was Kawahara, the person we were just talking about.
いいすか？
後で折り返すわ。
Lie.
生徒会関係のことかも？
それはちゃんと全員に連絡して滞りなくやってもらってるから大丈夫よ。
What did he want then? Nona's phone rang again. And at the same time, there was a knock at the door. If that was Kawahara on the phone, who was at the door? Was it Serika?
タクル。
Tension filled the room. With the phone ringing, we couldn't pretend that no one was here. Should we answer or not? Just as I finally decided to stand up and answer it.
クルス、いるんだろ？僕だ。 川原だ。開けてくれ。
It was Kawahara, the boy who was calling on the phone.
突然訪ねてきてすまない。でもこうでもしないと会えないと思ったから。
Kawahara bowed as he came inside.
もしかしてさっきの電話は。
イルスでも使われると困るからな。悪いとは思ったけど確かめさせてもらった。
In a cheap apartment like this, you could hear the phone ringing from the hallway. He must have figured that out. But why did he have to go through all this trouble? Maybe Sedeka was controlling him, just like she'd done with Hito? Either way, it would be best to be careful.
それから気づいているだろうが、有村に頼み事をしたのもクルスたちの住んでいる場所を知るためだ。そのことについても謝る。
そうだったんですか？待って、それじゃあ私つけられて。
She evidently hadn't noticed. I whispered in her ear.
おい、嘘はわかるんじゃなかったのか。
だってこれ持ってってくれって頼まれただけで、それだけなら嘘じゃないし。
What a useless power.
その川原くん、どうしてそんなことを。
Nona glanced at Yuto and Yamazoe, who were shaking in fear in a corner of the room.
決まってるだろう。クルスが学校に来ないからだ。
だからそれに関しては言ったじゃない。今は大変な時だからって。
大変なのはわかる。でもだからっていつまでもこう。
それにはいろいろと事情があるのよ。
事情？だったらその事情ってやつを説明してくれよ。
それは。
She fell silent. She certainly couldn't tell him that Sedeka might be after her life.
俺には相談できないことなの。
ごめん。
もしかしてそいつのせいじゃないだろうな。
Kawahara looked at me.
そうか。やっぱり宮代のせいなんだな。また宮代がクルスを巻き込んでるんだろう。だから学校に来られないんだな。そうだな。そう。
いや、
I wanted to say something back, but I couldn't. It was partially my fault after all. Sedeka had done all this because she thought it would make me happy, which meant that the reason we were stuck here was my fault.
おい宮代、俺は言ったな。クルスを巻き込むなと。
いや、
違うの川原くん。タクルのせいじゃないの。
だったらなんで来られないんだよ。
それは家族のことだから。だから川原くんには。
家族って言ったってどうせ本物の家族じゃないだろ。
I could see Yuta freeze in the corner of the room. Yamazoe was next to him, rubbing him gently on the back. Kawahara hadn't noticed the change that had overtaken the rest of the room. He was still talking.
宮代だって今一緒に住んでる奴らだって所詮は家族ごっこだろ。そもそも付き合いなら俺たちの方が長いはずじゃないか。
やめて。
なあ、子供の頃俺たちいつも一緒だっただろ。俺とクルスとそれから南沢と。俺はさ、あの頃から俺はクルス、お前のことが好きだったんだよ。
Another shockwave went through the room. It was a sudden confession of love. Of course, even I knew that Kawahara was in love with Nono, but I didn't expect him to say it in front of so many people. Even Arimura was stunned into silence.
もう一度言う、クルス。俺は君のこと。
待って川原くん。その話はまた違う時に。
いや、証人もいることだし、この際だからきちんと言っておく。俺は君が好きだ、クルス。
No, you don't.
川原くん。
なんでそんな困った顔するんだよ。
だって
お前だって分かってただろ。
それは。
子供の頃だって俺は本当はいつだってお前と二人でいたかったんだ。 南様の存在も邪魔だった。
Considering I'm like 99% sure
こいつ
she's
ど
Minamisawa,
こか行って
this
く
is
れればい
really
いのにって
awkward.
思ってた。でもお前はいっつもあいつを暴れんで、どこへ行くにも千里も一緒に千里も一緒にって。俺がどれだけあいつがいなくなればいいって思ってたかわかるか。
Nona's face twisted in pain. It must have hurt to hear him talk about her friend like this. Normally, Kawahara would have picked up on that. But after coming out in front of so many people and saying that he liked her, blood must have rushed to his head.
やっとだ。やっとあいつが南沢がいな
This
くなって
isn't
くれた
love,
と
dude.
思っ
This
た
is
のに。
obsession.
そしたら今度は家族だって。冗談じゃない。宮代なんかより俺の方がずっとお前のこと知ってる。お前のこと分かってやってる。なあクリス。
Kawahara looked straight into Nono's eyes. I could see that his eyes were a little bloodshot.
もう一度言う。俺はお前のこと好きだ。俺の気持ち受け入れてくれるよな。
Nono glanced around the room, looking upset as everyone watched in silence. Finally, she frowned and bit her lip.
川原くんの気持ちは嬉しい。
それじゃあ
でもごめんなさい。私川原くんの気持ち受け取れない。
どうして。
Kawahara's voice rose in anger.
どうしてだよ。宮代か。こんな奴のどこがいいんだ。
そういうところよ。
は。
タクルは私の弟よ。そうやって弟のこと悪く言われて喜ぶ姉がいると思う？
弟だって赤の他人だ。
でも私にとっては大事な家族なの。
Oh no.
彼女の千里のことだってそう。私は別に彼女のことを憐れんでたわけじゃない。だってあの子は私の大切な友達だもの。それに
That
あ
was
の
a
子は
lie.
もう死んでしまったのよ。死んだ友達のこと悪く言うなんて。川原くん、あなたどうかしてる。
Kawahara looked like he was about to say something, but then he closed his mouth in frustration.
お願いよ。今は帰って。
クリス。
お願いだから帰って。少し頭を冷やして。そうしたらいつもの川原くんに戻ってくれるって信じてるから。
分かったよ。今日のところは帰るよ。
He headed for the door
クソ。
and smashed it shut as he cursed. The tension drained from the room, and I could finally take a breath.
ごめんねみんな。嫌な思いをさせて。ユウトも怖かったよね。僕は私もあの人苦手です。
It didn't seem like Kawahara was very popular. Not that I didn't know why.
タクルもごめん。
いや、僕は言われるのは慣れてるから。
もう。そうだ、お茶入れよ。ね、気分変えましょう。
The tiny room was still soon filled with the scent of British tea, and peace finally returned. Except
有村。
いえ、
Arimura would sometimes look at Nono as if she was thinking about something. And then the next day,
いやー、この部屋寒いっすね。暖房とかないんですか？
おい、なんで今日も来るんだよ。
だから部活だって言ってるじゃないですか。
そ その割には部活らしい活動なんて何一つしてないじゃないか。
それは部長が指針を示さないからです。
しばらくは各自の自主性に任せるって言っただろ。
指示とかないとひなえどうしていいかわかんない。
Yeah, I wanted to punch her. I wanted to punch her right then and there.
いいじゃない。どうせ毎日退屈してるところでしょ。
さすがクルス先輩は宮代先輩と違って話がわかるなあ。クッキーおいしい。
Animeta was already digging into the tea and cookies that Nona had made.
もしかしてこれっておからですか？
あ、わかる？おからもらったから試しに作ってみたの。でも嬉しいわ。タクルったらそういうの全然分かってくれないんだもん。
そんなこと分かったところで世の中の情報とは何の関係もないだろう。知識っていうのはもっと別のところで培うもの。
はいはい、分かった分かった。
Animeta grinned as she watched us.
何？
なんだかすっかりおしどり夫婦の貫禄ですな。
バカ言うな。家族なんだから当たり前だろ。
そうよ、家族なんだもの。
家族ね。
なに？
いえ、別にいいですけど。そうそう、それより実は今日は先輩方に聞きたいことがあって来たんですけど。
All that wasted time and now this. If she wanted something, she should have said so.
クルス先輩って南沢千里って人とお友達だったんですよね。
I leaned forward, surprised to be hearing that name now.
ほら、昨日そんな話をしてたでしょ。それでちょっと気になって。
ええ、小学校の頃よく一緒に遊んでたわ。川原くんと3人で。
それじゃあ南沢さんってどんな人だったんです？
どうしてそんなこと？
いやちょっと興味がありまして。
I was curious too. Sunny Minamisawa was the girl we'd seen in AH Tokyo General Hospital when I was a kid, the one we'd left behind. I'd always thought that she might be the killer, but now I knew that I was wrong. I'd only seen her for an instant, but she'd had a huge effect on my life. Thinking back, it was strange that I hadn't asked about her before. Kazuki must have been interested too, because she was leaning forward and listening intently.
千里はおとなしい子だったわ。大勢の中に入っていくのが苦手で、私たち以外のことはあまり遊びたがらなくて。でも優しい子だったわ。
なるほどなるほど。じゃあ彼女の家庭環境について。
それはごめんなさい。彼女の家のこととかあまりよく知らないのよ。だからもういいでしょ。
でもお友達だったんですよね。
友達だってお家のことまでは普通知らないでしょ。それに私そろそろ夕飯の支度もしなきゃいけないし。
こいつは失敬。私ったらついジャーナリストの血が騒いじゃって。
何がジャーナリストだよ。それらしい活動なんて一度も。
それじゃあんまりゆっくりしてもご迷惑でしょうし、私たちは帰りますかね。
Arimeta grabbed Kazuki's hand just before she could take another cookie, then stood up.
というわけで。
は？なんで僕が？
だって事件はまだ終わってないんですよ。そんな中か弱い女の子2人だけを帰らせるなんて状況。
そんなの状況とは全く関係ないこと。
それじゃあ宮代先輩ちょっと借りていきますね。失礼しました。
待て、僕が行くとは一言も。
I ended up walking them home despite my protests. Why did I have to do this? I wasn't even sure what they'd come over for anyway. And on top of all that, Animeta had fallen strangely silent. Kazuki was always quiet, but experience had taught me that whenever Animeta wasn't talking, it meant trouble. Of course, it usually meant trouble when she was talking, too. We walked along in silence before Arimura finally opened her mouth.
嘘ついてますよクルッセ。
え？
それも南沢千里っていう人のことで何か隠してます。
My heart thudded loudly.
どうしてそんなこと？
どうしてって先輩も知ってるじゃないですか。私
それはそうだけど。
She was lying? Nono was lying? To me? I was worried about Sunny Minamizawa as well, but between the two, that was the bigger shock.
それは確かなことなのか？
なんなら私の能力もう一度お見せしましょうか。
I could see her D-sword floating out of the corner of my eye.
いや大丈夫だ。
Nono was hiding something. But why?
実は昨日話した時に気づいたんですよ。ほら川原先輩と南沢千里さんの話してたでしょ。あの時クルス先輩南沢千里さんは死んだって言ってたけど。
嘘だってのか？じゃあ南沢千里は生きてる
とクルス先輩は思っているってことになりますね。
She was alive. Sunny Minamizawa was alive. But why would Nono have to hide that?
それから彼女のことよく知らないって言ってましたが、あれも嘘ですね。
What Arimura was saying was probably true. Nono knew Sunny Minamizawa very well, and she believed that she was alive. Why did she think so? There were two possibilities. One was that she knew for a fact that Minamizawa was actually alive. The other was that she wanted to believe. If she'd consistently said she thought Sunny was dead, then...
まあ今となっては事件のすべては尾上セリカによるものなわけだし、だから南沢千里さんのことはどうでもいいのかもしれないですけど、でもちょっと気になったもんで。それじゃあ宮代先輩、私たちはここで。先輩
なんだよ和樹、いきなりつねるなんて痛いじゃないか。
さっきから話しかけてるのに宮代先輩がぼーっとしてるからですよね。うん。
そっか。
ひょっとして私余計なことをやっちゃいました？
いやいいんだ、別に大したことじゃない。
そうですか。だったらいいんですけど。
He totally lied. I said goodbye to the two of them and headed back to the apartment. The whole way back, I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that Nono might be lying to me. Why? For what purposes? The same questions kept spinning about in my mind.
家族の間で隠し事はしないこと、これだけは守ってほしいの。もう家族がバラバラにならないように。
This is why I don't like her. Nono was the one who'd said that. No secrets. No lies. That was the one promise that kept us together. But...
おかえりタクル。
when I got back, Nono was the same as ever.
和樹たちちゃんと帰った？
うん、途中までだったけど。
There was no sign of the awkwardness that had been there when she was talking to Arimura. But...
さっきの話だけど。
さっきのって？
南沢千里の。
ごめん、その話はもうやめてもらえるかな。
どうして？
だって死んでしまった友達のことを思い出すのはとても辛いことだから。ご飯もうすぐできるからテーブルの上片付けてくれる？
わかったよ。
It was obvious that Nono was avoiding talking about Sunny Minamizawa. Maybe it didn't matter at this point. But still, something was bothering me, like a thorn pricking at my heart. Sunny Minamizawa. Maybe I needed to learn more about her. It was one thing to decide to learn more about Sanemi no Misawa, but the question was how to go about it. I asked Kunasato and Shinjo, but they didn't have much to tell me. They knew nothing beyond what we'd found in the basement of AH Tokyo General, which meant that I had to ask someone who did know. To be honest, I wasn't happy with the idea, but I didn't have much choice. If I wanted to talk to him, this was the best place to catch him. Nono would ask questions if I left the house in my school uniform, so I went without it. That meant I stood out like a sore thumb. I recognized some of the students passing by, but they didn't pay any attention to me. They just chatted with their friends as they walked by. I waited for about 30 minutes. Finally, he appeared from the other side of the school gate.
宮代
Kawahara frowned when he saw me. I knew he didn't like me, but he also probably felt awkward after what had happened yesterday.
そのちょっと話があるんだけど、いいですか？
もしかして俺に宣戦布告でもしに来たか？
え？
なんだ、クルスに手を出すなって言いに来たわけじゃないのか？それなら少しは見直してやるところだったのにな。
あ、
Kawahara seemed to misunderstand how things stood between me and Nono.
で？
え？
話があるんだろ？だったらさっさと言えよ。
Kawahara didn't even bother to hide his irritation with me. People were staring at us as they walked by.
そのもしよかったらどこか別の場所で。
Kawahara sighed and started to walk. I followed him.
この辺でいいだろう。
He was standing on the side of a road without even a bench. It felt like his way of saying that he didn't want to talk for long.
早く言えよ。言っとくが俺はお前の顔すら見たくないんだからな。
I could tell from his tone that his hatred towards me was building. But I felt the same way. I just wanted to ask him my questions and get the hell out of here.
その川原くんは南沢千里さんと友達だったんですよね。
南沢？お前がなんで急にあんな奴のこと聞きたがるんだよ。
それはちょっと気になることがあって。
別に南沢はクルスと仲が良かっただけで、俺はあいつのことを友達だなんて思ってない。
I could tell that from the way he'd acted the other day.
その南沢さんはどういう人だったんでしょう？
そんなことクルスに
クルスはあんまり覚えてないって言ってます。
覚えてない？そんなはずないだろ。俺だって覚えてるんだ。俺なんかよりずっと一緒にいたクルスが覚えてないわけない。
例えば
Kawahara glared at me, but then he sighed and started to talk.
南沢は初めて会った時から気味の悪いやつだったよ。いつも暗い顔して顔色も悪くて、声も小さくて何言ってんだかわかんねえし、陰気を絵に描いたようなやつで、まんまクルスの引き立て役だよ。そうだな、そういうとこお前にちょっと似てるかもな。
He laughed. He wasn't even trying to hide his disgust with me anymore. But I didn't care.
それで彼女はどういう家とか。
ああ、確か親が怪しげな新興宗教にハマっててさ。
新興宗教？
名前までは忘れちまったけど、それで毎週日曜になるとそこの施設に通ってんだって言ってた。どこっつってたかな。確かでっかい病院の地下とか言ってたな。
AH 東京総合病院。
そこだよ、そこ。なんだ、お前知ってんのか？
いや、そういうわけじゃ。
So Sanemi Namisawa had been going there after all. But wait, did that place belong to some cult back then?
ああ、そういや。
He must have started to remember as he talked because he was speaking faster and more clearly.
いつも長袖着て隠してたけど、体育の時にチラッと見えたんだよ。そしたら腕に針の跡とかいっぱいあってさ。 だんだん学校も休むようになって。今考えるとヤバいよな、あれ。そんなだからうちの親なんかにもあいつとは付き合うなって言われてたんだけど、クルスが付き合うもんだから。
Kohada's tone became sharper and angrier as he remembered the past. As I listened to him, of course, I was remembering the girl named Sanemi no Mizawa. I was sure her parents had taken her to that research lab. She was undergoing experiments there every week. The goal, of course, was to awaken her gigglomaniac powers. I didn't know if her parents had agreed to the experiments, but it was easy to imagine that she hadn't wanted to do them herself. And there's one more thing I could tell from this conversation. That was...
ねえ、そのことをクルスは。
知ってるに決まってるだろ。さっきも言ったように、あいつは俺よりもずっと南沢と親しかったんだ。しょっちゅう悩みを打ち明けられたりしてたみたいだし、あいつの両親のことだって俺なんかよりもずっと知ってるはずだよ。そもそも今の話だってほとんどガキの頃にクルスから聞いた話だしな。
そう。
よーってのはそれだけか。
うん。ありがとう。
なんなんだよ。なんで俺がこんなこと。
I bowed to Kawahara and turned to go.
おい、宮代。
I heard his voice behind me.
クルスに早く学校に来るように伝えろ。それからもしまたクルスに何かあったりしてみろ。ただじゃ済まさねえからな。
Once he was done talking, he walked off. But to be honest, I didn't care. What was important was that...
ごめんなさい。千里とは友達だったけど、あの子の家のこととかあまりよく知らないのよ。だからもういいでしょ。
Nono was lying to me after all. Nono was hiding something. Something involving Sanemi no Mizawa. Even after she promised that she wouldn't keep any secrets. Which meant that was a lie too. I had dinner and took a bath. Yuta and Uki had already gone to sleep. Nono had her textbook out on the table. Even when she wasn't going to school, she was still keeping up with her studies. She'd asked her friends about what subjects they were covering and kept up with them at home. As student council president, she was trying to set an example. I'd gotten my Pokecom online, but nothing I was seeing was going into my head. I was trying to figure out how to bring things up with Nono.
もう、なーに？
何が？
さっきから何か言いたそうにしてるでしょ？
どうして？
それくらいわかるわよ。タクルのことだもん。
Was that because we were family? But then why?
ちょっと外いいか？
I went outside with Nono. Of course, we couldn't go too far with the little ones to think about. So we only took a few steps from the apartment. Nono followed after me, confused. She looked just a bit nervous, probably because she wasn't sure why I'd asked her to come out here with me. I turned around to face Nono.
なーに改まって。もしかして告白でもしてくれるの？
は？何言ってんだよいきなり。
だってこんな夜にわざわざ外に連れ出すなんてそんな感じじゃない？
No. It was true that maybe you can interpret this situation that way. Maybe.
もうわかってる。冗談よ。そんなにうろたえな。まあもし冗談じゃなかったとしても私としては嬉しいけど。
からかうのはよせよ。
I took a deep breath to help me focus as I got ready to change the subject.
タクル？
A look of tension appeared on her face when she saw how I was acting.
あのさ、正直に答えてほしいんだけど。
うん。
お前、僕に隠し事してないか？
In the end, all I could do was ask her straight.
え？
嘘ついてることあるんじゃないのか？
なに急に。 どうしていきなりそんなこと言うの？
Nona smiled, but I could tell. She was forcing herself to smile.
言ったよな。家族の間に隠し事はしないって。あの約束破ってないか。ノノ。
Maybe she had her reasons, but even so, I was tired of it all. I was tired of being betrayed. I was tired of having the people I cared about lie to me. There was a moment's silence. It was Nona who broke it.
信じて。
Her voice was so tiny I could barely hear it.
お願い。信じて。
ノノ。
これじゃ答えにならないっていうのは分かってる。でも今はお願い。
In the darkness, I couldn't see the look on her face, but her voice was full of sorrow and pain. Unless I trusted Nono, we could never truly be a family. Nono had said she wouldn't hide anything else. She'd said she wouldn't lie anymore. I was tired of being lied to, like when I found out about my parents' death. I didn't ever want to go through what I experienced when I found out Sarika was behind the killings again. So all I could do now was...
わかった。僕はノノを信じ。
相変わらず甘いね、タクは。
A bitter voice echoed in the darkness. The clouds split and the moon shone down to reveal the person in the darkness. Her D-sword shone in the moonlight, and a broken smile was plastered on her lips.
おのえ。
A cold chill of terror ran down my spine, and I could feel myself start to sweat. I'd let my guard down. I thought that if I was lucky, I might never see her again. And I'd started to think that maybe I would be that lucky. I never thought she'd just show up out of nowhere like this.
いい気なものだな、クルスノノ。
セリカ、何をしに来たの？
それくらいわからないの？
あなたみたいな人が考えることなんてわかるわけないわ。
あなたみたいな人。まるで自分だけが宮代拓郎を大切にしている。そんな言い方だな。気に入らない。
私はあなたとは違う。タクルのため、タクルが望んでいるから、そんな理由をつけてタクルを悲しませているあなたとは違うのよ。
I could almost see the invisible flames building up between them.
まあいい。聞きたいと言うなら教えてやろう。私がここに来たのは、お前からもらったものを返してやるためだ。
Sedika laughed in twisted glee. That wasn't the Sedika I knew. The naive, ditzy girl that was always by my side was gone now.
もらったもの？何のことかわからないけれど、その必要はないわ。持って。
おお、ずいぶんと気前がいいんだな。だが、そういうわけにはいかない。あいにく、やられたことはきちんとやり返す主義でね。
Does something to her?
気をつけろ、ノノ。おのえは報復するつもりだ。
報復？そう。つまり、あなたはタクルを取られた復讐に来たってわけね。
Can we not objectify Takaru? Nona pulled her D-sword from the void and readied it in front of Sedika's face. But Sedika didn't move a muscle. She just kept smiling.
血の気の多い女だ。それがお前の本性というわけか。いいか、復讐というのは何も力によってのみ遂行されるものじゃない。
どういう意味？
例えば、お前が必死になって隠していること、宮代拓が知ったらどう思うかな。
What she was trying to hide? Nona was hiding something from me? But she just told me to believe her.
タクはまだ知らないみたいだから教えてあげなきゃね。
やめて。
ねえ、
聞いてタク、その女クルスノノはね。やめて。
Nono's D sword flashed down at Setika's head. There was a shower of pale sparks.
ほら見てタク、これがこの女の本性。
Nono flipped her wrist around, and this time the silver light flashed upwards. There was a roar of spiraling wind. Even I could tell that Nono's stance was all wrong. Setiko was easily deflecting her attacks and grinning all the while.
ねえタク、まだわからない？その女の本当の姿が。
本当の。
お願い、
しょうがないわね。じゃあ私の口から教えてあげる。クルスノノの。いいえ。南沢千里の真実を。
Sunny Minamisawa and Nono Kurusu were friends. Nono was bright and cheerful, and everyone loved and admired her. Sunny looked up to her too. Sunny, however, was well aware that she was gloomy, that she mumbled, and that no one liked her. So when Nono first spoke to her, she was more confused than happy. She even wondered if Nono was trying to show off what a good girl she was by hanging out with a failure like her. In fact, that's how everyone else had seen it. But as she got to know Nono, Sunny stopped doubting. The two of them just seemed to get along somehow. Sunny was quiet, and Nono liked to take care of people. The two of them became fast friends. Sunny Minamisawa was a dear friend to Nono Kurusu. But for Sunny, it wasn't that simple. From her perspective, Nono Kurusu had everything you could ever want. She was jealous. She knew it was wrong to think like that. She knew she should never think that way. But the more she thought about it, the stronger the feeling became.
ののちゃんが羨ましい。ののちゃんみたいになれればいいのに、もしもののちゃんのような星のもとに生まれていたなら、そうすれば私だってきっと私はののちゃんになりたい。
That was Sunny Minamisawa's wish. And then 6 years ago, there had been a deafening roar, a violent shaking, and a blinding light. Nono Kurusu was right in front of Sunny. Nono was caught by a collapsing building and on the verge of death. She could barely keep her eyes open. There was nothing Sunny could do for her.
死にたくないよ。私もっとやりたいことまだ死にたく。
And then her voice faded away. Sunny would never hear it again. Nono Kurusu would never move again. Sunny cried. She knelt before Nono and cried and cried. Nono Kurusu was her only friend. She was sad to have lost her. And
ののちゃん、私ね、ののちゃんみたいになりたかったの。どうして死んじゃったの？ねえ、どうして死ねばよかった。私が死ねばよかったんだ。私なんてどうせ生きていたってまた苦しい実験にさらされるだけだもん。
ていても誰も喜んでなんてくれないもん。ののちゃんの代わりに私が死ねば。
And then there was a light.
なんということでしょう。目の前に魔法の剣が現れたかと思うと、南沢千里の体は不思議な光で包まれたのでした。そして驚いたことに、その姿は彼女にとって憧れの少女クルス・ノノへと変身していたのです。それこそが彼女南沢千里のギガロマニアックスとしての覚醒でした。発光の少女南沢千里は本物のクルス・ノノを南沢千里として葬ることで、醜いアヒルの子から白鳥へと生まれ変わり、輝かしい第二の人生を歩き始めることにしたのでした。めでたしめでたし。
めでたしめでたし。
どうだったタク。南沢千里とクルス・ノノ二人の少女の取り替え早物語は楽しかった？
My pulse began to quicken, and I started to lose the ability to think clearly. I could feel my soul shifting within my body. All right, Yuji. The ground under me shook unsteadily. No, it wasn't just the ground. It was my whole world. Everything that made up the person named Takaru Miyashiro began to shake. My head hurt, and I couldn't understand what I was hearing. What did I just hear? Was Serika telling me that Nono was Sunny Minamisawa? Nono was a gigglomaniac. I knew that already. But her power was...
違う。ギガロマニアックスとしてのノノの能力は有村と同じはずだ。人が嘘をついているかどうかを見抜ける能力。そうだったよな、ノノ。どうなんだよ、ノノ。
Nono said nothing. She just looked very sad. Serika's lips curled up into a mocking grin.
もうタクってば本当にバカなんだから。やっぱりタクには私がついてないとダメだよね。
どういうことだよ。
有村ひなえと同じ。人が嘘をついているかどうかを見抜ける。嘘で塗り固めた半生のくせに苦し紛れについた嘘はずさんだな。嘘なんかじゃない。私はなんだ、また宮代拓郎に嘘つくつもりか。違う、私はクルス・ノノ。
Serika must have thought Nono's words were the funniest thing in the world because her body was racked with laughter.
呆れた。この後に及んでまだそんな嘘がつけるとは。お前大した玉だよ。
おのえ。
しょうがないから私の口からもう一度はっきり言ってやろう。いいか宮代拓郎、その嘘つき女の能力は複写だよ。
複写？
そう、言うなればコピー。容姿、声色、寸分の違いなく別人になり変わることのできる能力。それがそいつの能力。
In other words,
だからタクが言い含められたのは全くの嘘。タクは騙されてたんだよ。初めて会ったその時からずーっと。
僕は
finally I felt a shock, like being hit with a club run through my skull. No, I'd been feeling that shock for a while now, but my mind was just so dulled that I couldn't even think.
ちょっとすごいだろ。まさかそこまで嘘ずくめだったなんてさすがに想像すらしてなかっただろ。でもお前もこれで分かっただろう。 クルスノノ、いや南沢千里という女の醜く悪辣な本性を。南沢千里は親友が死んだことを悲しむどころか、これ幸いとあっけなく切り捨て、南沢千里として慰霊碑の下に葬った。そして自らは美しく明るく聡明で誰からも好かれるクルスノノとして第二の人生を謳歌していたんだよ。違う。ほんと感心するよ。普通なら罪悪感というものがあるはずだよ。よくそれで毎日ああやって笑っていられた。
女って怖い。
何が違う？
Sedeka's cold voice shot through the night like a bullet.
虚構と虚栄にまみれた汚らわしいペテン師。それが偽らざるお前の正体なんだよ。南沢千里。
There was a mocking light in her eye as she glared at Nono. Without even thinking about it, I closed my eyes and put my hands to my temples. Black doubts rose up and began to take shape. I'd seen Senni Minamisawa in my nightmares 1,000 times. I thought she hated me for not being able to help her. I thought she was the one behind the new generation murders. And she was actually Nono?
嘘よ。
おお、さすがだな。まだ。でも、まあいい。
Sedeka laughed a little and turned around to leave.
殺してやろうかと思ったけど、今日はこのままにしてやろう。なぜって、その方が面白そうだからだよ。せいぜい宮代拓に言い訳なりなんなりするがいい。惨めに、無様に、滑稽に。全てを偽っていた醜い自分を許してと地面に頭をこすりつけて泣いて謝ればいい。もっともそんなことしたところで許してくれるかどうかはわからないがな。
She walked off into the darkness of the night, her laughter echoing down the street. I couldn't follow. I was helplessly caught up in what she said, as if I'd fallen into a whirlpool.
タクル。
I turned toward the sound of a hoarse voice. Nono was smiling at me, weakly.
ノノ。
やっぱりあの子どうかしちゃったのよ。あんな見えすいた嘘つくだなんて。
嘘。
そうよ。あんなの嘘に決まってるでしょ。私たちを疑心暗鬼に陥らせて喧嘩させるためのセリカの見えすいた嘘。
Lies? Who was lying and who was telling the truth?
第一、誰かと入れ替わるなんてそんなことできるわけないじゃない。あんな妄想を信じろだなんてどうかしてるわ。
Was it just a delusion?
タクル。
Her voice was nervous.
タクルは信じてくれるよね。
ノノ。
私を信じてくれるよね。
Nono was right. I couldn't completely trust Sedeka right now. There was a good chance she was trying to make us suspicious of each other. But was everything Sedeka said a lie? But
タクル。
there was one thing I could say for sure. That was
信じていいのか。
I wanted to believe in Nono.
本当に信じていいのか。
She said we were a family. She said we wouldn't have any secrets, and I wanted to believe her. I didn't want to go through that anymore. I didn't want to be betrayed by the people I cared about anymore.
分かった。僕はノノを信じたい。
I was probably saying that to myself, not to her. The real Nono Kurusu was already dead. and another girl, Sunny Minamizawa, had taken her place. Setika's words had come out of nowhere, and I couldn't believe them. And I'd already said that I'd believe Nono when she said she was telling the truth. I wanted to believe, but
タクル、おかわりは？
いや、いい。
朝だってあんまり食べてなかったけど、ひょっとして調子悪い？
別に大丈夫だから。
そう。
I said I wanted to believe, but it just wouldn't be that easy for any human being. The more you want to believe, the more you try not to think about something, the more the tiny thorn in your heart digs deeper into you. I knew that was just what Setika wanted, but that didn't mean there was anything I could do about it.
もしかしてタクルさんとノノさん喧嘩してます？その昨日からなんだかよそよそしい感じがしたので。ノノ姉ちゃんたち喧嘩してるの？
別にそんなことないわよ。ねえタクル。
ああ、喧嘩なんかしてない。
タクル兄ちゃん早く謝った方がいいよ。
だから喧嘩してないって言ってるだろ。仮にしていたとしても、なんで僕が原因ってことになるんだよ。
だってノノ姉ちゃんが怒ってる時は大体そうだもん。
心配しないで言うと、別にタクルが何かしたわけじゃないから。
本当？
ほんとほんと。それよりほら、ちゃんと人参も食べなきゃダメよ。
僕人参嫌い。
I like Ninjin.
そんなこと言ってたら強い男の子になれないわよ。
Nono was bothered by it too. It showed up in the way she was acting. The doubts within me and Nono's unease had built up to the point where even Yamazoe could sense them. We'd fallen right into Setika's trap. If there was any way to get out of this, it was... It wasn't that I doubted her. I was doing this because I believed her. Because I wanted to believe. That's what I told myself over and over again as I went to the meeting spot.
まったく、俺はいつの間にかすっかり便利屋になり下がってしまったようだな。
Shinjo's words were sarcastic when he saw me. But it made sense. I'd been coming to him for everything lately.
本来外部の人間にこんなものを見せるのは感心できるこっちゃないんだがな。
すみません。
まあいいさ。今更だ。それより、こいつが頼まれていた例の物だ。
Shinjo took out a large envelope and put it on the table.
見ていいですか？
No, I just stuck the envelope into the table in front of you, but you're not allowed to look at it.
そのために持ってきたんだろ？
ありがとうございます。
I could tell my hands were shaking as I reached for the envelope. If I wasn't suspicious, there was nothing to be afraid of. If I believed her, there was no reason to hesitate. But I still wasn't sure whether it was okay for me to look.
どうした？見ないの？
いえ。
I opened the envelope and took out the documents inside.
そいつが渋谷地震で亡くなったとされる南沢千里の検視資料だ。
Shinjo whispered and looked around him as he spoke.
何せあの時は事態が事態だったからな。南沢千里に限らずいろいろと粉飾されてるデータも多くてな。一応渋谷地震の被害者のうち遺体の損傷が激しく、身元が当然南沢千里のものとされている遺体も火災による損壊が。
じゃあ
それなんだがな。見てもらえばわかるが、南沢千里という少女は両親も地震によって命を落としている。そのせいで南沢千里の遺体に関してはその DNA 鑑定の結果を紹介する以前に当時した
とある
クルス・ノノだ。
In other words, Nono had said that it was Sunny Minamizawa's body. That was the only reason she was believed to have died.
クルス・ノノの証言のみにより、その遺体は南沢千里と認定され、遺族に引き渡されて葬られた。
はい。
よし。で、その下の封筒だが、そいつが当時の DNA の鑑定記録だ。鑑識課の知り合いに頭を下げて、ちょこっとその記録をつついてみた。おかげでラーメン一杯分だ。
Now I owe him ramen.
あ、それくらいなら僕が。
おいおい、言ってみただけだ。子供に出させるほど俺も落ちぶれちゃいないよ。
Shinjo was laughing, but his salary probably wasn't that high. With payday coming up, it was probably a pretty big blow to him.
で、だ。俺の方で鑑定結果を照合してみたんだがな。結論を言えば、遺体の DNA は南沢千里の両親、父親、母親のどちらとも DNA 型が一致しなかった。つまり、
その遺体は南沢千里のものではない。
そういうことだ。
Slowly, slowly, everything Shinja said began to sink in. The body that Nono Kurusu had claimed was Sunny Minamisawa wasn't. But then why had Nono said that? Had she mistaken someone else for Sunny Minamisawa? But how is that possible when they were supposed to be best friends? And
さあ、それじゃあ、南沢千里のものと思われた遺体は一体誰だったのか。だが、
he motioned for me to flip to the next page.
当時、身元不明で DNA 鑑定に回された遺体は348名。そのデータを詳しく検証してみた結果、それらの中から、おそらく南沢千里と母子関係だと思われる極めて近い DNA を持つ遺体が見つかった。
母子関係。
In other words, it was the mother of the dead girl.
その人は。
Shinjo took a sip of water to wet his throat. His next words were clear and unmistakable.
クルス・ユカ子。渋谷地震で圧死したクルス・ノノの母親だ。
Everything went black. I thought again and again about what he was telling me. The mother of the body they thought was Sunny Minamisawa was actually Nono Kurusu's mom. Which meant
南沢千里のものと思われていた遺体はクルス・ノノのものだった。
I didn't even recognize my voice as I spoke.
それは間違いないことなんですか。
データは寡黙に、だが雄弁に物語っている。
南沢千里は親友が死んだことを悲しむどころか、これ幸いとあっけなく切り捨て、南沢千里として慰霊碑の下に葬った。そして自らは美しく明るく聡明で誰からも好かれるクルスノノとして第二の人生を謳歌していたんだよ。
Sedeka's voice echoed in my head. Then that was.
私を信じてくれるよね。
What the hell? She told me to believe her. Why did she tell me to believe her?
おい、宮代君。ひどく顔色が悪いが、大丈夫か？
はい。
とりあえず、この結果についてだが。
それなんですが、どうするかは少しの間、僕に預けてくれませんか？
そう言うだろうと思ったよ。
すみません。
まあいいさ。だが、そのままにしておくわけにもいかない。いずれ時が来たら、きちんと処置は取らせてもらうからな。
はい。
やれやれ。俺もとんだお人よしだな。
I like Shinjo. 10 out of 10 would date. Shinjo kept talking after that, but I couldn't hear a single word he said. All I could sense was some dark thing sinking into my stomach. I staggered back home like a zombie in a graveyard. Why's it gotta be in a graveyard? The lead weight in my stomach got heavier. There was a feeling inside me that I didn't recognize at all.
おかえりタクル。そのどこへ行ってたの？
Nono was smiling at me like always, but I could tell that she was trying to judge my mood. That only upset me more. It was obvious now what she was afraid of.
タクル？
Nono Kurisu. The person I'd always thought was Nono Kurisu. The girl I'd always thought of as my stepsister. But she was really.
ねえタクル、どうかした？もしかして気分でも悪いの？
My ears started to ring as she spoke. Lumps of emotion collided and fought within me.
どうしたの？タクル兄ちゃん、病気？お布団敷きましょうか？
いや、それより二人はちょっと外で遊んで。
外いいの？
ちょっとタクル、何言ってるの？この前セリカが来たばっかりじゃない。二人だけで行動させるなんて危険よ。
アパートの近くなら大丈夫だろう。その代わり何かあったら大声出すんだ。いいな。
うん、わかったよ。ウキ姉ちゃん、行こう。
あ、ちょっと。
We'd been so insistent that they stay inside that they were probably eager for any chance to get out. They were gone before Nono could even finish her sentence.
ちょっとタクル、どういう。
お前に話があるんだよ、クレス。
Kurisu's expression tensed when she heard what I'd called her. I had to say it. I had to ask. I had to know. If we were going to stay like this, if Kurisu was going to stay Kurisu, if we were going to be a family, it was best that I didn't ask. But
ついさっき新庄さんに会ってきた。
新庄さんに？どうして？
調べてもらったんだよ、南沢千里の死について。
I thought she'd get angry or be surprised, but she listened to my words without changing her expression at all.
ここに DNA 鑑定の結果がある。南沢千里だと思われていた遺体の。
I tossed the brown envelope on the table, but Kurisu didn't move to pick it up. She just said 2 words.
そう。
Actually, she just said 1 word. That was all. Why did you do that? Why did you do that when you told me you believed me? I was expecting her to say that, but she didn't. Instead, I was the one who spoke.
どうして言い訳しないんだよ。どうして否定しないんだよ。
だってタクルの中でもう結論は出てるんでしょ。
だけど否定してくれよ。違うって言ってくれよ。それじゃ認めたみたいじゃないか。
Even if she denied it, that wouldn't change a thing. I'd probably get mad that she was still lying. But even if I knew it didn't make sense, I still wanted her to say I was wrong. I wanted her to deny it. I still held onto a sliver of hope. I wanted to cling to the slightest chance that she had something that would make me think the DNA test was wrong. But instead, all she said was,
ごめん。
Oh, hi hi! So, copy. Can I actually send this? I cannot, darn it. Anyway, so my Discord got deleted. And yeah, so that was fun. So hi. In other words, she admitted it. She admitted she wasn't really Nono Kurisu. I took my anger out on the table in front of me.
なんだよそれ。 何なんだよそれ。どういうことなんだよ。
落ち着いてタクル。
これが落ち着いてなんていられるかよ。
お願い、話を聞いて。
嘘だったんだな。最初から全部嘘だったんだ。家族だって言ったのも大切だって言ったのも。
タクル。
家族の間で隠し事はなし。よく言えたもんだな。自分は正体まで隠しておいて、よくそんなこと言えたもんだよ。
違うのタクル。
違う？何が違うんだよ。何が違うって言うんだよ。
私だって騙すつもりはなかったのよ。嘘をつくつもりなんてなかった。でもあなたと出会った時には私はもうクルス・ノノだったから、もう二度と南沢千里には戻りたくなかった。あなたたちに嫌われたくなかったから。だから。
Kurusu is forcing the words out.
でも騙そうとしたんじゃない。本当はずっと苦しかった。私は
I
本
hate
当
this
はクルス・
girl.
ノノじゃない。そう言いたかった。でもそれが分かったら今の生活が失われるって。明るくて誰からも好かれるクルス・ノノじゃなく、陰気で気味の悪い南沢千里だって分かったらタクルに嫌われるって。そう思うと怖くて本当のこと言えなかった。騙そうだなんてそんなこと。それだけは信じてほしい。
信じてほしい。
Those words shook me even more.
信じてほしいだって。
I'd lost the ability to control myself. I'd lost the ability to control what I was saying.
裏切ったのはそっちじゃないか。父さんや母さんの時だってそうだ。ずっと僕を騙して。もうあんなことは二度とない。そう言ったよな。それも嘘だったってことじゃないか。
それは。
家族の間で隠し事はしない。そう言って自分は一番大事なことを隠して、それで信じろだって。信じられるわけないだろ。お前のことなんて今さら何も信じられるわけない。
タクル。
Kurusu's eyes were overflowing with tears, but I couldn't stop myself from speaking.
なんだよ。信じ合うのが家族とでも言いたいのか。だったら僕たちはもう家族じゃない。二度と家族面しないでくれ。
I let it all out. When I was done, there was nothing left but emptiness. But even after that, I still couldn't forgive her. Her tears, her words, they all seemed like lies. So,
ごめんなさい。
I watched as Kurusu turned and ran out of the room, but I didn't try to stop her. Smashing my fists into the table wasn't going to change anything. Yep, I'm doing it. I mean, I was sick for like a week and a half, but I'm generally okay. I logged out of Discord and I had the password, okay? I made sure before I logged out that I had the password, but it turns out they wanted two-factor identification, but I didn't have two-factor identification, so I could no longer ever log back into my account. So that was great.
なんだよこれ。なんだよ。なんでこんなことに。
Sedeka had betrayed me. Kurusu had lied to me. Everything I thought I had was turning against me. I hope you don't find out that your dad actually was evil. It was laughing at me as it fled away. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I didn't have anything left to believe in. Sedeka said she'd committed all those murders for me. Kurusu had said she didn't want me to find out about her secret.
なんだよ、それじゃ。元を正せば全て僕のせいじゃないか。
I'd wanted a case that would shake the whole world. I'd wanted a family. That's why all this had happened, right?
なんだ、そっか。悪いのは僕だ。
It was my fault for being here. It was me that was making everyone miserable. The victims of the return of the new generation madness. Yui, Dad, Ito, Serika, Kurusu. It was all my fault. Maybe I should just go away. Maybe I should just go disappear.
頼むよ、誰でもいい。僕を消してくれ。この世から僕を消してくれ。聞いてるんだろう、尾上。それが僕の願いだ。だから。
I could hear someone open the door and run into the room. Was it Serika, here to grant my wish?
タクル兄ちゃん、今ノノさんが。ノノ姉ちゃんと何かあったの？タクルさん。
The two of them were looking at me, concerned, but I didn't have the energy to answer them. Kurusu didn't come back to the apartment that night. November 22nd, 2015, Sunday. What was I doing? The rain had started to fall, and the next thing I knew, I'd come here. I changed out of my wet clothes and into the old uniform I kept at the back of the dresser, and then looked around the room once more. They'd closed the place down, but they hadn't changed the locks or put a chain on the door. The spare key was in its usual place. They should have just let us stay here for a while more then. If they had, maybe this wouldn't have happened. I desperately tried to drive the thoughts from my mind once more. Anyway, thanks to the key, I'd made it inside easily. I knew it was wrong, but I'd come here anyway. I had too many memories here. I needed to come here to say goodbye to my past. All the furniture was still here too. It was much the same as when we'd lived here. But since there was no one to clean it, dust had built up on the shelves, tables, and floors. I softly ran my hand along the desk, and a streak of brown appeared under a thin layer of white. Who would have thought it would get so dusty if no one was here for such a short time? The day we left, it felt like we were never coming back, and I'd been terribly sad.
ただいま。
I whispered softly. Of course, no one answered. The place was empty. But still, this was where everything I had was kept. Everything I had as Nono Kurusu. I hated myself, the person named Seni Minamizawa. I'd always been alone ever since I was a kid. At recess time and daycare, everyone would go out to the playground and play on the swings and slide. But I liked to stay indoors and read books. No, I don't think I actually liked it. I just pretended I did so I wouldn't have to interact with other people. Even at a young age, I already thought that any interactions with others meant pain and sorrow. That didn't change in elementary school. Instead of changing, my introverted personality got worse. Now, after having lived as Nono Kurusu for years, I knew. If you try to stay in your shell, everyone will ignore you. But you don't have to do that. There's so many fun things around you. There's so many friends you can enjoy it with them with. Excuse me. I was always alone. That didn't mean I was bullied. For as long as I can remember, I'd always been worried about what other people thought of me. I was good at avoiding becoming a target. I tried my best not to stand out. I tried my best not to make anyone mad. That was my life. But I still hated myself. I hated the girl named Senni Minamizawa. It goes. How have you been? One day I talked to my mom about it.
お母さん、私もっとみんなと仲良くなれるようになりたい。友達がたくさんできる。そんな性格になりたい。
Thinking back, that was my first mistake. That was when my own personal hell began. Yeah. What path is Sunday even? Mom took me to a lab. She told me if I went there, they'd fix my shy personality. It was a lab that was related somehow to the pharmaceutical company where my dad worked, and deeply related to that weird cult my mom believed in. I don't know that I want Sunday. Right now I'm trying to get the current girl, but I don't know if I'm going to get her. I think I'm probably going to hit the 50-50 and lose. At first, it was just simple psychological tests. All the doctors there were nice. When the tests finished, they gave me candy. I started to look forward to going there. I was a child. I was a fool. At first, Dad was opposed to me going there, but after a while, he almost never came home anymore. Mom said he was busy with work. And then the experiments began to get more serious. They would force my eyes to stay open as they showed me all kinds of weird images. I have a new account. I'm actually not logged into Twitch, so I can't actually type in here. But it's Lienaya. They made me listen to this weird, creepy static for hours. Hot things, cold things, sour things, spicy things, nasty things, nasty things, nasty things. Painful things, 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 painful things. Lienaya. Again and again and again, they put weird machines on my head. They gave me drugs. They gave me dozens of shots in my arms. When my left arm turned purple, they'd use the right. When the right arm turned purple, they'd use the left. Again. No matter how much I cried or screamed, no matter how much I said I didn't want to go, Mom told me it was my task in life to go there and be experimented on. What they were doing there was special. I was chosen, so I couldn't tell anyone else. That's what she said. Mom wouldn't listen no matter what I said. But Dad, maybe Dad would. I longed to meet my father. And then one day I saw him in the middle of an experiment. When I finally saw my father again, he was like a different person. Not the way he looked, the way he felt. Before, he'd been so opposed to me going to that facility, but now he said the experiments were for my own good. I was a small child with nothing left to believe in. The drugs ruined my skin. My hair would fall out sometimes too. I lost the few friends I'd had. Then one day, the scientists were all very happy with the results of the experiment. Dad was happy too. I didn't care. I just wanted to get away. Then the experiments got even worse. They gave me shots. My whole body hurt. I thought I might die. I fought back. They tied me to a chair. They put a weird device on my mouth. I couldn't even say it hurt anymore. And then I thought I saw someone looking at me from the door.
助けて。誰か見てるならお願い。 助けて。
But there was no one to hear my voice. No one came to save me. I fell into despair. Despair at the past, despair at the present, despair at the future. There was no hope there, only pain and suffering.
生きるのがこんなに辛いなら、私はもう生きていたくなんて
I longed for
な
death.
い。
And then it happened. She spoke to me for the first time.
大丈夫？え？顔色悪いよ。保健室行く？どうしたの？あ、うん。本当？うん。あ、私クルスノノ。あなたは？南沢千里。千里だね。よろしく。よろしく。クルスさん。ノノでいいよ。みんなそう呼んでるし。ノノ？
She was the single ray of light in my dark life. Nona was always cheerful and smiling. She was nice to everyone. There was always a circle of people around her. I couldn't bring myself to try and join that circle. I just had to sit there and watch. But whenever I did,
千里ちゃんもおいでよ。一緒に遊ぼう。
she would chat to me. I could see the people around her frown. Nona must have known too. Some of them would just walk away when I went to join the group.
いいよ、そういう人は放っておけば。だって私たちお友達でしょ。友達？私とののちゃんが？え、千里ちゃんはそう思ってくれないの？うん、そうじゃないけど。私でいいの？何言ってるの？当たり前じゃない。
Of course I could. Those words made me so happy. They kept me going. They saved me. Nona was cute and popular with the boys. Kawahara and the other boys would gather around her. They were all after Nono. I knew they didn't like me. Sometimes they'd say that the only reason I existed was to make her look better. But I didn't care. I knew Nono didn't think that way. One day, Nono asked me a question.
千里ちゃんはいつも早く帰って何してるの？
I had no idea what to say. By that time, they were doing the experiments on weekdays too. I was going to a weird place where they did creepy experiments. Mom had told me not to tell anyone, but if I told her, she might think I was weird, but maybe I could tell her.
うちってね、お母さんしかいないの。だから休みの日はいつもお手伝いばっかりなんだ。え？
I was surprised. Nono had always seemed so happy. I didn't know she had any problems at all.
もしかして千里ちゃんも同じ？あ、うん。
Maybe Nono felt sympathetic to me. When I thought about that, I couldn't tell her the truth. And it made me feel a little better to think that I wasn't the only one suffering. And then I started to hate myself. Nono was honestly worried about me, so how could I feel that way? But still, I was jealous of Nono. She was cheerful and pretty and smart, and everyone liked her. I looked up to her more with each passing day. I started to think that I wanted to be Nono, but that was never going to happen. And the more I started to feel that way, the worse the experiments got. I never told anyone, but word started to get around that I was going to some weird lab. My skin dried and cracked. My hair fell out. Eventually, I stopped being able to move my legs like I wanted to. And then came the day of November 6th, 2009. I was undergoing another painful experiment that day. On my way back, I became very dizzy and collapsed. I thought it was a side effect of the drugs they'd just given me, but it wasn't. Everyone on the streets of Shibuya had fallen over and was crawling on the ground like me. The buildings collapsed, the trees on the side of the road fell over, cars and trucks lost control and collided. The whole city turned to hell in an instant. I didn't know what had happened. The experiments had caused my legs to shrivel up and I couldn't walk right. Someone in the fleeing crowd pushed me over and I had to drag my wounded body home. Mom was dead. It had happened so fast. She had that same self-satisfied smile on her face that she always had. "This is for your sake. This is a sign of your faith." Those were the words she'd always said when she'd made me suffer. And now she was gone from the world without suffering at all. I felt a feeling that I'd never felt before. It wasn't sorrow or loss. A while later, someone came from the facility to tell me that Dad had died as well. He'd been unlucky enough to be in Shibuya for a meeting during the earthquake. I still didn't feel sad. At the same time, the people from the facility told me to evacuate to the hospital. They'd been showing me these strange pictures and seen some kind of symptoms develop, they'd said. They didn't want to lose a valuable guinea pig. Even with all that going on, I could tell what they were thinking. Mom was dead. Dad was dead. Did I still have to undergo more experiments? Did I still have to suffer? There was nothing left to tie me down anymore. I smacked away the big hand that stretched out for me and ran. I kept running, not even knowing where I was going. I still don't know how I ran on those legs, but somehow I found the strength. I didn't want to go back to that lab. Ever. That was enough to keep me going. And after I turned down many corners and scrambled over a bunch of rubble, I found her. Even buried in the rubble, she is beautiful.
センリちゃん。ののちゃん、大丈夫？今助けてあげるからね。
I couldn't just let her die. Nona was my best friend, and more than anything, she was the person I wanted to be. If she died here, I'd have nothing left to live for. I desperately tried to move the rubble off her and save her. But I was too weak. That's right. There was nothing I could do. I didn't want to abandon her. There was nothing I could do.
痛い。痛いよ、センリちゃん。
As more time passed, blood started to trickle out through the rubble, and her voice began to get smaller.
お母さんは？
I looked around and saw a grown-up's feet poking out from under the rubble behind her. They seemed like a woman's feet.
お母さんなら無事よ。よかった。だからののちゃんもセンリちゃん。
Nona grabbed my arm. Her hand was surprisingly cold.
いやだよ、私死にたくない、死にたくないよ。ののちゃん、ごめんね。お母さん、私もう。
Tears poured down her face as she slowly closed her eyes.
ののちゃん、
The strength left her hand.
ののちゃん、ののちゃん、のの
Whoa.
ちゃん。
No matter how much I cried, no matter how hard I hit her cheek, she didn't move. I cried. Alright, my second screen just died. It is like... Oh, yeah, it's completely 100% dead. I guess I've finally got to go around connecting the other screen. Alright. Well, for now. Just unplug that. Nono's death meant the death of the person I looked up to. It meant the death of my hope. It may as well have meant my own death.
ののちゃん、私ののちゃんになりたかった。
Even in death, she was pretty. But what about me? My hair was a mess. My face was covered with soot. I must have cut my face somewhere too.
どうせ死ぬなら私が死ねばよかったんだ。ののちゃんの代わりに私が死んでしまえばよかったんだ。
And then I saw something strange. It was like the wings of a huge bird soaring through the skies, or the hands of a holy mother coupled in prayer. Organic, yet inorganic. I was so entranced by it that I didn't even realize that someone had come up to me. Did you see a little girl around here? She was about your age. Looks kind of gloomy. It was one of the men who'd come to take me to the lab. When I didn't say anything, he sighed and walked off. It didn't make sense. Weren't they looking for me? I gasped in surprise at something I saw in the corner of my eye. It was a piece of glass embedded in the wall of a collapsed building. I could see Nono reflected in the pieces, but Nono was right at my feet. The Nono in the glass was looking at me in surprise. I took a step closer, and so did the girl in the glass. I tilted my head, and so did Nono.
嘘。
I turned into Nono. I looked around for something else that would show my reflection. I picked Nono's phone off the ground and used it to take a picture of myself. I was Nono. I couldn't believe it, but it was real.
私がののちゃん。
What had happened? Did it have something to do with that headache? Or that weird sword I'd seen? Maybe it was because of those awful experiments. But it didn't matter.
このままののちゃんになれば。
If I could become Nono, I wouldn't have to do any more experiments. I'd be free of the chains of pain, sorrow, and loneliness that bound Seri Minamizawa. I could spread my wings as Nono Kurusu and fly off into a beautiful blue sky. Flames were already spreading from the collapsed building.
ののちゃん。ごめんね。ごめん。
I apologized again and again as I dragged Nono's body out of the rubble and put it in the fire. The smell of burning hair and flesh stung my nostrils, and it was only then that I realized what I was doing. I quickly tried to grab her body and pull her out, but it was too late. Soon her body had turned to black ash, and I passed out. When I woke up at the hospital, a new life as Nono Kurusu awaited me. All my classmates, including Kawahara, came to visit me. They were nicer to me than they'd ever been to Seri Minamizawa. Fortunately, nobody questioned if I was really Nono Kurusu. Nono had been buried as Seri Minamizawa based on what I'd told the police. Even in that unprecedented disaster, I still thought they might get more suspicious. I was astonished at how easy it was. For a while afterward, I felt guilty at how worried everyone was about me. I was terrified they'd find out. My personality and particular wasn't something I could quickly change. I'm sure a lot of things I said struck people as wrong, but time was on my side. Everyone simply decided that I was traumatized at the loss of my mother and friend, and was actually even nicer to me. And at some point, I got used to pretending to be Nono Kurusu. I mastered the role and stopped feeling guilty. Soon, I really was Nono Kurusu. That was about the first time I saw the boy in the coma named Takeru Miyashiro. After that, I was taken in by Aoba Dorm, and then Yui and Yuto came. Takeru came, still in his coma. I took care of him every day. I nursed him. We fought. Soon we opened up to each other, and we became a family. Takeru left the dorm. We became a family again. We stopped being a family. And in the end, I stopped being Nono Kurusu. I was back to being Sunny Minamizawa, the girl who lied to her family for years. But
じゃあ私はどうすればよかったの？
tell the truth? Was I supposed to go back to that lab as Sunny Minamizawa? Be experimented on as a gigalomaniac? Spend my days suffering in that damp building? Without anyone ever loving me? And die as a guinea pig with no happy memories, no warmth at all? Was that what I was supposed to do?
だったら私は何のために生まれてきたの？
I wanted to live. I wanted to be happy. That was all.
私だって分かってたよ。
I knew that it was all a lie. All the smiles, all the kindness, all the friendship. It was all for Nono. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for Sunny Minamizawa. Takeru's voice echoed in my mind.
嘘だったんだな。最初から全部嘘だったんだ。家族だって言ったのも。信じられるわけないだろ。今さら何も信じられるわけない。
If he knew the real me, if he knew Sunny Minamizawa, would he accept me?
ねえタクル、私はどうすればいいの？これからどうすればいいのかな？
What could I do now? What was important to me?
私は
I took a bite out of a simple meal of margarine and toast. There's nothing else. There wasn't the usual meal of crisp lettuce or juicy tomatoes or tasty hot dogs or eggs cooked just the way we liked them. Just toast and milk. Yuto was ignoring the toast and watching me carefully. He timidly opened his mouth.
ねえタクル兄ちゃん、
I knew exactly what he was going to say before he said it.
のの姉ちゃんどこ行っちゃったの？
Fuck Bano. He'd asked me that many times over the last day.
だから友達のところに泊まりに行ったって。
嘘だよ。
Yuto cut me off before I could finish.
そんなの嘘だよ。のの姉ちゃんが僕たちに何も言わずに友達のところに泊まりに行くなんて。ゆうとくん。
I didn't expect them to believe it either. But I wasn't sure if I could tell them the truth. Even if I did, they wouldn't believe it. How could I expect them to believe that she was actually a girl named Sunny Minamizawa who'd taken Nono Kurusu's place using something called gigalomaniac powers? It was much better not to tell them the truth. Ah, you should also tell the truth, though. That's right. There was nothing I could do. If the truth wasn't going to make anyone happy, it was better not to tell them. No secrets. I was just a means to an end. I'd known that, but I still couldn't accept it. As a family, we had nothing strong to bind us together. We were just a group of people living under the same roof. That promise had been a symbol of what bound us as a family. That was all. That's why I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to accept that she'd lied to me.
ねえタクル兄ちゃん、どうして嘘つくの？
That's right. I was lying to Yuto and Yamazawa. Did I have the right to criticize Nono? To criticize Senni Minamizawa? Did I have the right to live as a family?
タクル兄ちゃんってば。
うるさいな。クルスは友達のところに泊まりに行ったって言ってるだろ。
I stood up and headed for the door.
タクルさん、どこへ？タクル兄ちゃん。
I shut the front door as if to block off his cries. Outside, it looked as if it was about to rain. That's clearly already raining. Of course, I hadn't brought an umbrella. And even if I did, I wouldn't feel like using it. What was Kurusu doing? Was she keeping out of the rain? I laughed a little. She was always the one who told me to take an umbrella when I went out. I don't think I went there because I thought Kurusu was there. But maybe, just maybe, a part of me did. I was the one who told her that we weren't family. But maybe I'd come here anyway, because I was seeking some small piece of what we had before. Kurusu wasn't here, but there were still signs of her warmth. Her room hadn't changed a bit since the first time I'd come to the dorm. There were just a few more things in it. Kurusu had never spent any money on herself. Of course, part of the reason was that we didn't have any money, but even when we did, she would use it on me, Yui, Yuto, or Dad. Lately, I told her to get herself some nice jewelry or something, and she'd said she didn't need it.
私はクルスノノ。ノノって呼んで。よろしく、タクル。なに、どうしたの？返事は？
慣れ慣れしくしないでくれよ。
え？
僕たちは会ったばかりだろ。会ったばかりの相手を呼び捨てに、それも名前で呼び捨てにするなんて、それじゃまるでドキュンみたいじゃないか。
あなた、友達いないでしょ。
Ouch.
そういう考え方してたら友達なんてできないわよ。
大きなお世話だ。僕は別に友達なんて。
それから慣れ慣れしいじゃなくて親しくよ。私たちは今日から家族なの。だから親しくして当然でしょ。
What are all these sounds?
なんでさっきからずっと見てるんだよ。そこで黙って見てるくらいなら手伝っ、それとも楽しいのか。着替えすら一人でできないのを見てて笑ってるんだろ。落とした服も拾えなくておかしいんだろ。くそ、僕だってあんなことが起きる前にはこれくらい普通にできたんだよ。それなのになんでできないんだよ。
気は済んだ。私だって手伝ってあげたい。だけど父さんも言ってたでしょ。日常のことから少しずつできるようにならなきゃって。今は辛いだろうけど、今頑張ることがきっと未来のあなたにつながるわ。
でも
大丈夫、私がずっとついててあげるから。ちゃんとお箸使えるようになったじゃない。
分かったから話せって。喉に詰まっちゃうだろ。
ああ、ごめん。 も嬉しくて。
たかが自力でご飯食べたくらいで大げさなんだよ、ノノは。
大げさなんかじゃない。だって私知ってるもの。あなたがこれまでどれだけリハビリ頑張ってきたか。おめでとうタクル、よく頑張ったわね。
ほら、お前らちゃんと並べ。
この辺りで大丈夫かな。
おう、ユウトはもうちょっと内側に入る。
お父さんはこの空いてるスペースに。
よし、それじゃあ行くぞ。
ちょっと待って。
どうしたタクル？
僕のスマホでもいいかな、1枚。
ああ、早くしろ。
ここを押せばタイマーが作動するから。
どこだ？
ねえ、まだ撮らないの？友達との約束に。
ああ、いいよ、僕がやるから。
おお。
取られちゃったね。
タイガー、ああいう新しい機械はどうもな。
それじゃあ行くぞ。
赤いの点滅し始めたよ。タクル、早く早く。
分かってるって。
ほら、みんな笑え。
チーズ。
Evil! We really were a family. We may not have been related by blood, but as long as we were here, no matter what anyone said, we were a family.
いい？私たちの間
Yeah.
では隠し事はしないこと。血はつながっていないけど、私たちは本当の家族以上に家族なんだから。
She used to say that all the time. What had she been thinking when she said those words? Then I saw what looked like a tiny piece of paper under the bed. I reached my hand under and picked it out. It was a picture. There were two girls and a boy. The boy was Kawahara. Nono Kurusu was in the middle, smiling. And off to the side was another girl. Her face was scribbled out. It was the girl we'd seen in the lab. It was the girl who'd begged us for help. If every day was like that for her. I couldn't bear to stay in Kurusu's room anymore, so I left. I went outside, but stopped when I heard someone below the stairs. I thought it might be Kurusu, but it wasn't.
宮代。
Kawahara saw me. His face tensed up as he approached me.
川原くん。
About to get punched in the face. Yep. だと思いました. He suddenly grabbed me by the collar and slammed me into the wall. Oh, I guess I didn't get punched in the face. Whatever.
いきなり何？
どういうことだ？
どういう？
とぼけるな。クルスがいなくなったってのはどういうことだって聞いてるんだ。
どうしてそれを？
さっきお前の家に。そんなことはどうだっていい。それよりクルスはどこへ行ったんだ。
He'd probably gone to the apartment and gotten it out of Yuto or Yamazawa. I was worried that he might have scared Yuto, but he pulled tighter on my collar and I couldn't speak.
宮代、お前この前俺が言ったことを覚えてるよな。今度クルスに何かあったらただじゃおかない。そう言ったよな。
I mean, Kurusu died a long time ago, so, do you mean like things that already happened or things that, he had said that, but...
川原くんには関係ないだろ
う。なんだと？
Nothing happened to Kurusu recently.
僕たち家族の問題だ。君には関係な。
Just tell him. Be like, but on the other hand, sending Minamizawa, the girl you've been bad-mouthing, has been pretending to be the girl you like. His fist hit my... Oh, I did get punched. Good. Several times before I could finish my sentence.
ふざけんな
I was terrified when I saw how bloodshot his eyes were.
何が家族だ関係ない俺に言わせりゃ関係ないのはお前の方だ
This time he kicked me and I fell backward into a puddle of water. Another sharp kick landed as I tried to stagger back to my feet. It hit me in the solar plexus. Who the fuck even talks like that? And knocked all the air out of my lungs.
お前なんかよりお前よりも俺の方がクリスとの時間はずっと長いんだよそれを後から来て気を引くような真似しやがって
She's a person, not an object. I don't like Kurusu treating Takuru like an object. I don't like you treating Kurusu like an object.
お前みたいなやつと家族笑わせんなクリスはな道場でしょうがなしにお前のことを弟だって言ってただけなんだよ
And this guy just keeps on assuming that she's doing things out of pity. Clearly does not understand the girl he likes. Is obsessed with.
それを調子に乗りやがって何が関係ないだ
His fist cut through the air and smashed into my cheek. I smelled something strange in the back of my nose as the flesh from my cheek dug into my face. Damn it. I didn't care if he was hitting me. No, I was the cause of the return of the new generation madness, and I'd hurt Kurusu, Minamizawa, in a fit of rage. Maybe I deserved it. But it pissed me off that I couldn't fight back.
何がおかしい
別にただ
なんだよ言えよ
Just like I thought, the slightest provocation set him off. It was just a sign of his stupidity.
ほらどうした言わないならまた
わかったそこまで聞きたいなら教えてやるよ
Tell him. Each time I spoke, I tasted something metallic in my mouth, but I kept speaking anyway.
クルスはなお前のことなんて
I mean, true, but
なんとも思っちゃいない
何
いやむしろ嫌いなんじゃないか
なんだよそれクルスがそう言ってたのか
いやでもバカ
だよそれ根拠もないくせに嘘ばっか言いやがって仕返しのつもりかよ
my chest, my sides, my back.
根拠ならある
ああだったら言ってみろよ
It must have bothered him because once I started to talk, he stopped hitting me. He was a small man.
お前が南沢千里のこと嫌ってただろ
南沢当たり前だろあんな気持ち悪いやつ誰だって嫌がるそれがどうした
それも全部あいつには分かってたそんなやつにあいつが心を許すわけないだろお情けで付き合ってもらってたのはお前の方
Welcome
だよ
back.
てめえ誰がお情けだよ適当なこと言いやがって
At this point, I was basically a punching bag. It felt like burning irons were being pressed all over my body. My sense of balance was thrown off, and the pain kept me from thinking. Everything stopped seeming real. I started losing the ability to think clearly. Maybe it would be better if I just... Kawahara spat on my cheek, but the rain washed it away.
だもう終わりか。
I forced myself to stand through the pain.
こいつ
どうした？僕はまだ生きてる。そう。どうせなら殺してくれよ。
何？
ほら、僕が憎いんだろ。ムカつくんだろ。だったら殺せばいいじゃないか。ほら、僕は抵抗なんてしない。
That's right. This was all my fault. What happened with Sedika? What happened with the murders?
殺せよ。ほら、やってみろよ。
And what happened with Kurusu? So,
殺してくれよ。
なんなんだよ、いきなり。どうかしてるよ、お前。
a strange, nervous smile formed on his face as I approached him, and then he turned around and fled into the pouring rain. After I couldn't see him anymore, I fell to my knees on the ground. I spit up a hunk of blood, and then let the rain fall down from the dull gray sky.
どうして？
Why didn't he kill me? I never should have been alive at all. Then this never would have happened. Yui and Dad would still be alive. Sedika wouldn't have hurt anyone because she wouldn't exist. And she would have been able to start her new life as Nono Kurusu. If it weren't for me,
わかった。あなたのその望み、叶えてあげる。
I felt something freezing cold and sharp at my neck. I didn't have to turn around to see who it was.
尾上。
タク、
Onoe was behind me, smiling happily as she put the blade up to my neck.
やっと言ってくれたね。タクの本当の望み。
尾上。いつからそこに？
ずっといたよ。私はタクと一緒だもん。子供の頃からそうだったでしょ。いつだってずっと一緒。ずーっとタクのそばにいて、タクがどうして欲しいのかを知る。そのためだけに生まれてきたんだもん。
Oh, so that was it. I finally understood who Sedika Onoe really was. She was truly a part of me.
尾上。僕は。
大丈夫だよ。何も言わなくても私には分かってる。
Slowly, her blade moved just an inch. I could feel a warm drop of liquid running down my neck.
それじゃあ行くね。
うん。
This is for the best. This is. I slowly closed my eyes.
さよなら、タク。
The air shook a little. And there was the sound of something cutting through it. Without even feeling pain, cold drops of rain were hitting my neck.
お前
I opened my eyes and saw. Woo, she's back to being Sunday.
南沢。千里。
No, it was.
タク。
のの。
クルスノノ、いや南沢千里。
お前どうして？それにその姿は。
もう偽るのはやめたの。これが私の南沢千里の本当の姿。もしもこれで全てを失うことになったとしても、もう嘘はつきたくないから。家族に隠し事だから、たとえこの姿であなたに嫌われたとしても、私は本当の私でいることに決めたの。
Nona stood in front of me with the D sword in her hand.
南沢千里、今さら何をしに来た？
あなたなら聞かなくても分かってるんでしょ。あなたの手からタクルを守りによ。
その醜く無様な姿で？
そうよ。これが偽らざる私の姿だから。
I don't know why they're saying she's ugly, because honestly, she's a twin tail.
そうか。
Way better than Nona.
面白い。でも邪魔をするな。お前の出番はもう終わった。
I mean, yes, she's really cute, but she's also a twin tail. She's cute and a twin tail. Nona flinched back in fear as the blade sliced through the raindrops. Her expression twisted in pain.
お前
It was only then that I saw the blood and the cut on her shoulder.
まだその名前で呼んでくれるんだ。
そんなことより肩。
さっきちょっとかすっちゃったみたい。でもこのくらい。
何が？邪魔をするなと言っている、この偽物が。
私はもうクルスノノの偽物なんかじゃない。私は南沢千里、本物の南沢千里よ。
It was a type of resolve. You could call it determination. The determination to abandon the life she'd lived for years and be reborn anew.
そんなことどっちだっていい。私は宮代拓の望みを叶えてあげるだけ。だからお前は邪魔なんだよ。
タクルの望み。
そうだ、宮代拓は自分なんていなければいいと思った。消してくれと思った。だから私がその望みを叶えてやる。
Sorry.
なぜならそれが私、尾上セリカの存在する理由だから。だからそこをどけ。
Not sorry. I like Clara.
そんなのダメよ。私が許さない。
Setika's sword was designed to attack, but Nono's D sword was heavy, and as hurt as she was, it seemed hard for her to use. Nono wasn't Nono anymore anyway. She was Senri Minamisawa. She was feeling the pain from all the terrible experiments she'd suffered over the years. Setika's attack slowly started to push Nono back.
邪魔をするな。
タクルは私の弟よ。あなたに殺させなんかしない。
Nono.
そんなの。お前こそ家族を壊した元凶だろ。
それでも私は。
どけ。
The blade shook like thunder. A swirl of wind appeared around Setika's feet.
どけって言ってるんだよ。
The fierce blow knocked Nono to her knees. Her tiny, thin neck was defenseless and exposed.
死ねよお前。
A cold voice and a white flash. I pointed the weapon I'd pulled from the sea of chaos, feeling its heft in my hand.
タク、どうして死にたいって言ったのはタクだよ。
ああ、言った。
じゃあどうしてその女をかばうの？そいつはタクを騙してたんだよ。
ああ、そうだな。
だったら
でも
Maybe it wouldn't be that easy to forgive her for lying to me. But everything she'd done for us, she'd done as part of our family, not as Nana Kurusu or Sunny Minamisawa. She'd given us her love, and it was real love. It probably didn't matter what her name was or where she was born or what she looked like. What I really wanted, it was to once more.
そうか。それが宮代拓の望み。だったら。
Sadako looked up and smiled, then readied her weapon.
その望みごと葬ってやる！
The D-sword became a hurricane of light as she attacked me.
タクル、
大丈夫。
It was one thing to say it, but I was still feeling the pain from where Kawahara had hit me, and just knocking back Sedeka's attacks was enough to make my body scream.
どうした？偉そうなこと言ってその程度か！
Shining beams collided, scattering rainbows everywhere. Sword and sword collided like two magnets drawn to each other.
まだまだ！
My lungs hurt like they were on fire. Sedeka found a hole in my defenses and attacked. Her D-sword knocked mine upward and threw me off balance. The glowing weapon went straight for my exposed neck. I put my hand up to protect my throat.
タクル！
The inside of my left wrist was torn open. I felt the heat before I felt the pain. The warm rain fell down and spread the blood into a puddle at my feet. I bit down on my teeth hard to keep from passing out and tried to judge the distance between us again.
どうした？やられる一方だぞ。そんなことで。
The fierce blade struck again. I just barely managed to move out of the way in time. At this rate, she would kill me. Like Sedeka said, if I didn't attack her, this was only going to end one way. But the pain, exhaustion, rain, and sweat were already blurring my vision. My strength was at its limits. If I could just land one hit. One hit.
どうタク？楽しい？楽しいよね。私はすっごく楽しい。
Yandere? I blocked her attack with the blade of my sword and threw her off balance just a little. The air of self-satisfaction vanished from her face and was replaced by fear. I didn't miss my chance. What I wanted was... It wasn't destruction. It was a future with Minamisawa. That's right. That was my choice. I put all my strength and all my wishes into a single swing of the blade. Sedeka raised her weapon right in front of me. A bluff? Was it a trap? No. If she countered now, there was no way I could... I saw her smile. And then... she fell to the ground. I could still feel the sensation in my hands.
セリカ。
Red blood spread silently on the asphalt.
おのえ、どう して。
Sedeka knew exactly what I was going to do. If she wanted to kill me, she could have. So why?
たく楽しかった。
おの
よね。私はタクが望む世界を見せてあげたい。それだけ。
おのえ。
私はタクが望んで生まれた存在。でも今タクがそばにいてほしいのは私じゃない。
Sedeka smiled at her faintly.
タクのことよろしくね。セリカ。
ごめん、おのえ。僕のせいでこんな。
ねえ、タク。一つだけお願い。
僕にできることなら。
私を終わらせて。それができるのはタクだけだから。タクル。
Just like she asked, I took the D sword and pointed it at her body. But
どうしたの？
ダメだ。できない。
しょうがないな、タクは。
she smiled happily and grabbed the blade with a shaking hand. And then
バイバイ、タク。
the D sword went through her body without a sound.
おのえ。
The girl I'd created, the girl who was always there for me, was surrounded by a cocoon of light, which vanished into thin air. The veil of rain that had covered the sky had vanished, leaving behind a stench on the asphalt. I looked up at the sky and saw a rainbow in the heavens. I could hear the crunching sound of footsteps on gravel, going further into the distance.
のの。
見ないで。
I was about to turn back, but stopped when I heard the rejection in her voice.
ごめんね、タクル。もう二度とあなたの前に姿を現したりしないから。でもね、これだけは信じてほしいの。確かに私は嘘をついていたけれど、
No, you finally became your
あな
cute
たたちの
form.
こと
Why are you leaving?
大切な家族だって思ってた。お願いよ、信じてくれる？私はもうクルス・ノノじゃない。
The footsteps started again. Nona was leaving. We would never see her again.
今までありがとう。さようなら。
I turned around and saw a small girl. She was facing away from me. It was the first time I'd seen her, but I'd seen her 1,000 times before.
のの。
I ran after her and grabbed her hand and forced her to look at me.
いや、やめて。
どうして。
だって私はノノちゃんじゃない。こんな醜い顔タクルには見せたくない。
You're cuter than Nona. I held her close as she squirmed and tried to look away.
ごめん。僕は間違ってた。お前がクルスノノか南沢千里かなんて関係なかった。
Sunny looked up at me in surprise, and for the first time I could see her face. It was different than Nono's. It didn't have her bright charm or her bold features, but
だってお前が僕の家族で僕にとって大事な人だってことには何も変わりはないんだから。
タク
tears fell from Sunny's eyes. Memories came flooding back to me.
そうだよ。いつも僕を見てくれていたのはこの瞳だったんだ。動けない僕を献身的に看病してくれたのも、辛く苦しいリハビリに時には励まし、時には叱咤してくれたのも、僕のしでかすバカなことに本気で怒って本気で笑って、そして本気で泣いてくれたのも、いつだってそばで見守ってくれていたのはこの瞳だ。いつだって差し伸べてくれたのはこの小さな手だった。全部お前だった。確かにお前は嘘をついてた。クルス・ノノじゃなかったかもしれない。僕を絶望の闇から救ってくれたのは本物のクルス・ノノじゃない。南沢千里、お前だった。
That was the truth. So,
私を許してくれるの？
I nodded silently.
クルス・ノノじゃなくても？
言っただろ。お前が僕の恩人で家族だってことは変わらない。
I held her tight so that she would never go anywhere again. And
Sandy.
I said her name. Her real name.
何？
おかえり。
Now, how are you explaining this to Yuto and Yamazoe?
ただいま。
Humans are temporal beings. I think it was a philosopher named Heidegger who said that. Eh? Heidegger. I know that name, but I don't. German philosopher born in 1889 and died in 1976. A critic of metaphysics who used phenomenology to support his theory of ontology. He defined time as past, present, and future, which are three equal, continuous, and infinite things. His theory says that the present is the principal axis upon which the past and future are decided, and time is created. I don't know what that means. Time moves from the past to the future, and time is what rules over human lives. In that process, the past is lost, and new things are born. The return of the new generation madness gradually began to fade from people's memories. The girl named Serika Onoe, who was a person of interest in the case, vanished, and without any firm evidence, it was impossible to know if she ever existed at all. Yeah! The case came to an end without a satisfactory answer. And then, the four of us still lived in that cheap apartment.
ほら、ユウト、早く準備しないと遅れるわよ。ちょっと待ってよ。この番組終わったらやるから。そうやってテレビばっかり見て。ウキちゃんはもう準備できてるって。行ってきます。待って、僕も行くよ。行ってらっしゃい。行ってきます。
This is the true waifu. Mornings are always busy like this.
たく、あんまりうるさくしてると。
Pounding on the wall was another thing we'd gotten used to.
また後でうるさく言われるな。
しょうがないわね。また夜にクッキーでも焼いてお裾分けしとくわ。
頼むよ。どうした？
まさかこんな日が来るとは思ってなかったな。
I also think of Heimerdinger from League of Legends, though. Nana Kurusu becoming Sunny Minamizawa had created no end of problems. Of course, Yuto and Yamazawa weren't sure how to handle it all. Her name and appearance were totally different. I knew it would be impossible for them to think of her as the same person. But inside, she was the same. She'd gone back to looking like Sunny Minamizawa, sure. But she was still Nona Kurusu, the cheerful, helpful girl who kept the household running. After a few days of living with her, both of them had got used to the idea that Sunny Minamizawa was their sister. Of course, they were family. We couldn't exactly tell everyone else that Nona Kurusu was actually another girl all along. So it ended up that Kurusu went to live with some very distant relatives, just as a new transfer student named Sunny Minamizawa came to the school. It was hard for her to rebuild her relationships with her old pals from the ground up, but she pulled it off. Of course, a few of them.
チャオス宮代先輩、クルス。
有村さん。
あー、じゃなかった。南沢先輩。
お前な、いい加減慣れてくれよ。
んなこと言ったって、そう簡単に行くもんじゃないですよ。ねえ、花。
うん。
Wow. And she's short. We told the people who knew about the case the real story.
つうかさ、3年なんだし、今さら無理して学校来なくてもよかったんじゃねえの？
僕もそう言ったんだけどな。
あのままみんなと別れてしまうのは寂しいじゃない？
そんなもんかね。
I never would have taken a risk like that just to see the people in my class. But maybe that was just a sign of how she'd changed.
で、今日の部活は？
悪い。今日はちょっと行くところがあって。
行くところ？
ええ。
なになに？先輩方2人で？もしかして無夫婦な感じ？
無夫婦？
違うわよ。そういうんじゃなくて。
分かってますよ。まあ、たとえそうだとしても、一つ屋根の下に暮らしてるんだから、今更って感じだし。
たく。
それよりタクル、そろそろ。
ああ、そうだな。
We said goodbye to everyone and left. The sky was the same color it had been after the rain stopped on that day. We headed for
ののちゃん。
It was a grave far away from Shibuya in the suburbs. The body that had been originally buried as Sunny Minamizawa had now been quietly interned in the Kurusu family grave as Nono Kurusu. Nono Kurusu. She was a girl I knew well, but one I'd never actually met. Sunny put her hands together in silent prayer as she faced the cold grave. There was so much she hadn't been able to say, so much that she wanted to say. Nono Kurusu and Sunny Minamizawa were finally talking to each other as different people now. The sin of using her, the sin of burying her, the sin of lying. The guilt from those sins would never go away, but still.
ごめんね、ののちゃん。これからたくさん辛いこと、悲しいこともあるかもしれないけど、それでも私はもう逃げたりなんてせず、立ち向かっていこうと思う。南沢千里として。
Minamizawa Sandy. Voiced by this person, whoever this is. Find chaos. Alright, yeah. So she's she's got the same voice actress as Nono. I was gonna say because like sometimes she sounded different, but then sometimes she sounded the same, and so yeah, they've got the same voice actress.
それが私にできるあなたへの手向けだと思うから。
The smoke from the incense rose toward the sky, blown about by the wind. And in the wind,
頑張ってセニちゃん。
I thought I heard a voice. Everything that had happened so far was a mix of plots, misunderstandings, miscommunications, and successful efforts. So whenever I wanted to cry at what I'd
タ
become,
クル。これからも私のこと見守ってく。
I'd take the hand of the girl next to me, feel her warmth, and walk with her together. Just like she'd done for me. For the sake of tomorrow, and for the future.
「ねえタク楽しかった？」
Real sky end. Boot. All right. That took me about 3 hours to finish the Real Sky End. So tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow morning, I will start the Deep Sky End that I'm meant to be doing right now. So thanks for watching, and I'm gonna try to be on tomorrow morning. We'll see if I actually manage to do that like I said I was going to. But anyway, bye-bye.